Chapter 1446. Besides, it also seemed to be the leader of the Chaos Mutants. If the players killed it, they might be able to earn a huge amount of points. At the same time, the leader of the Chaos Xenogeneics was also infuriated. He wanted to lead his subordinates to annihilate the Golden Crow clan, but before he could even reach the Golden Crow clan's territory, he was beaten to a pulp by this despicable guy. At this moment, an army of countless players arrived. That was why the leader of the Chaos Mutants vented his anger on the players. The leader of the Chaos Mutants emanated waves of nether demonic aura and stood motionless in midair. The players thought that he was frightened and scrambled to pounce on him. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of thousands of players rushed to the front of the leader of the Chaos Mutants. All sorts of magical attacks and colorful brilliance shrouded the leader of the Chaos Mutants. But it was a pity that the weak attacks of the players were no different from scratching an itch on the leader of the Chaos Mutants. The leader of the Chaos Mutants revealed a look of mockery on its huge, evil face. Shortly after, a black flame erupted abruptly, engulfing an area of tens of thousands of feet. The players who rushed over were burned to ashes before they could even make a sound. The difference in strength was too huge. Even though the Chaos Mutants were like pigs and sheep waiting to be slaughtered in Yi Chen's hands, they were still too powerful for the ordinary players. After hundreds of thousands of players were killed in a single attack, the players seemed to have woken up. But there were still some who weren't resigned to it. They snarled, "Don't be afraid, everyone. So what if this Chaos Mutants are powerful? After all, there's only one of them left while we have billions of players. Even if we outnumber him, we can still kill him. Let's attack him together." Under their encouragement, the players were hot-blooded as they screamed and pounced on the leader of the Chaos Mutants. A one-sided massacre immediately took place on the battlefield. The players charged dauntlessly as though they were food on a platter. Before they could reach the leader of the Chaos Mutants, they were burned to ashes by the raging black flames. It wasn't until hundreds of millions of players were injured that some of them finally came to their senses. They screamed in horror and fled in all directions. Unfortunately, it was all too late. It was all because of their greed. They had charged too quickly, but they hadn't been able to escape fast enough. The Chaos Xenogeneic leader had caught up to them and killed them one by one. As for Yi Chen, he hoisted the Rui Jingu Bang and stood on a cloud, watching coldly. He did not interfere. After all, the players had to be responsible for their own decisions. However, now that the players' party had collapsed, it was Yi Chen's turn to make a move. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of the Chaos Xenogeneics that were chasing after him. Then, he sneered and said, "You had fun killing them, didn't you? Now, it's our turn to spar." The players realized that after Yi Chen stopped the Chaos Mutant, it didn't even stop. They were scared out of their wits. He hurriedly escaped from the massacre. Before the Chaos Xenogeneic could say a complete sentence, Yi Chen's powerful Jingu staff came crashing down. With a loud bang, the leader of the Chaos Mutants, which had been fierce and ferocious just a moment ago, was smashed into pieces by Yi Chen. Yi Chen waved his hand casually, and kept the corpse of the Chaos Xenogeneic leader. At that moment, the entire battlefield was emptied. However, the stench of blood lingered in the air for a long time and didn't dissipate. On the other hand, the players were in a daze. Was this the end of the large-scale storyline mission? Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? The players felt like they were nothing more than bystanders. At that moment, another clap of thunder boomed in the sky. System announcement for the large-scale storyline mission: protect the Golden Crow Goddess. The Chaos Xenogeneic troops that attacked the Golden Crows have been wiped out by player Yi Chen alone. Yi Chen has received all the points as a reward. Other players, please keep up the good work. The players who had witnessed the power of the Chaos Xenogeneics were speechless. This time, there wasn't any possibility of trickery. It was an achievement based on one's true abilities. Therefore, the players understood the huge gap between themselves and Yi Chen. They didn't say a word. Instead, they sighed deeply and transformed into white light and teleported away. The Golden Crows left some jokes behind. They wanted to see if there were other opportunities for the subsequent development of the storyline. At that moment, the Golden Crow Goddess descended from the sky. The Golden Crow Goddess was wearing a colorful feather robe. She looked extremely charming and graceful, and the players' eyes were glued to her. Some of the players even shouted excitedly, "Oh my God, guess who I saw! The Golden Crow Goddess has appeared. She's right in front of me." It was a pity that after the Golden Crow Goddess appeared, her gaze didn't linger on the players. Her beautiful eyes were filled with endless affection as she stared at the godlike figure, Yi Chen. The Golden Crow Goddess landed beside Yi Chen. She looked at Yi Chen affectionately and said, "Brother Yi Chen, it's great that you're fine. I wonder how much damage the Golden Crows would have suffered if you weren't here." Yi Chen lowered his head and smiled at the Golden Crow Goddess. He said, "It's my honor to be of service to you." At the same time, Yi Chen also heard the system notification that the Golden Crow Goddess' favorability towards him had increased to 80 points. This was already quite impressive. It wouldn't be long before it reached 100 points. Then, no matter what Yi Chen said, the Golden Crow Goddess would agree. At that moment, the Golden Crow Goddess was surrounded by 7 or 8 small three-legged golden crows. They seemed to like Yi Chen very much as they surrounded him and chirped non-stop. Yi Chen released the small three-legged golden crow that he had just subdued to play with her sisters. At that moment, the Golden Crow Goddess placed a shiny golden token in Yi Chen's palm. The Golden Crow Goddess lowered her head and said embarrassedly, "This is a token that can control the power of the sun. With it, you can use the power of the sun at any time. Brother Yi Chen, do you like it?" Yi Chen was shocked. He lowered his head and looked at the sun token in his hand. He didn't expect the Golden Crow Goddess to give this to him. That was the power of the sun. It was very useful to him. Yi Chen kept the sun token and looked at the Golden Crow Goddess affectionately. He said, "As long as it's a gift from you, I'll like it." Chapter 1447. Upon hearing this, the Golden Crow Goddess' neck immediately blushed. After all, this sentence was too suggestive. Yi Chen was insatiable. He took a step forward and held the Goddess of the Golden Crow's delicate hand. The Goddess of the Golden Crow struggled symbolically before she allowed Yi Chen to hold her hand. She let nature take its course. The gamers who were still there were the most loyal fans of the Goddess of the Golden Crow. When they saw their goddess being held by Yi Chen, they were so angry that they almost vomited blood. A gamer roared angrily, "Goddess of the Golden Crow, please open your eyes. Don't be fooled by Yi Chen. Yi Chen is a womanizer. I know that he has more than 100 women. You should be with me. I'll treat you wholeheartedly. I'll only be good to you for the rest of my life." Just as the gamer finished his sentence, the other gamers immediately responded. They added insult to injury and complained to the Goddess of the Golden Crow. Yi Chen frowned when he heard the gamers' words. These guys really knew how to cause trouble. However, the Goddess of the Golden Crow wasn't affected by the gamer's words. She lifted her head and looked at him with admiration as she said, "Brother Yi Chen, is what they said true? You're really amazing. The more capable a man is, the more women he will have. This proves that Brother Yi Chen is really outstanding." Seeing the Goddess of the Golden Crow's reaction, the gamers who were trying to sow discord were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They didn't know what medicine Yi Chen had fed the Goddess of the Golden Crow to make her so infatuated with him. Yi Chen, on the other hand, had so many women. He was an experienced veteran when it came to relationship. His grasp of the situation was even more perfect. Just a few words from him were enough to make the Goddess of Golden Crow laugh and laugh. She even leaned her head on Yi Chen's shoulder and blinked her worshipful eyes. Her eyes were full of tenderness and sweetness as she looked at him. Yi Chen realized that the Goddess of the Golden Crow's affinity for him had reached 90 points. The Goddess of the Golden Crow had already given her heart to Yi Chen. Then, the goddess of the Golden Crow brought Yi Chen up to the sky and showed him around the Golden Crows. When they visited the goddess of the Golden Crow's bedroom, Yi Chen carried the goddess of the Golden Crow by her waist and walked towards the ivory phoenix bed. The goddess of the Golden Crow realized what was going to happen, so she agreed shyly. When Yi Chen left, the Golden Crow goddess reluctantly saw him off outside the Golden Crow's residence. She was looking forward to their next meeting. This time, Yi Chen exchanged the double points that he had obtained from the large-scale plot quest for resources. After all, he couldn't rely on himself for the development of the Samsara dynasty. He had to help his generals grow as soon as possible. When Yi Chen returned to the Samsara dynasty, the first thing he did was to reward the generals who had made contributions to the Samsara dynasty. He gave each of them a peach of immortality. It had been a long time since they came to the Eldritch continent. Of course, these fierce generals of the three kingdoms knew what the peaches of immortality represented. It should be noted that in the entire Eldritch continent, only the Queen Mother of the West had a peach of immortality. Those who had been invited by him to attend the Feast of Immortality were either on good terms with him or were powerful figures who had ruled over a region. Even so, each of them could only get one peach of immortality at most. However, Yi Chen brought so many peaches of immortality with him. The total number of 6,000-year-old and 3,000-year-old peaches of immortality that had been distributed to the public totaled up to several hundred. Almost all of the officials and generals under his command had a share. As for the 9,000-years-old peaches of immortality, they were given to the women in the harem. With the help of the massive resources, the Samsara dynasty ushered in a new peak of development. Moreover, Yi Chen arranged the Kylan's Cliff to be in the sacred city of Samsara. The entire Samsara dynasty didn't receive the Kylan's Cliff's blessing. Moreover, Yi Chen got the Shang-Chi luck. The Samsara dynasty's luck was rising step by step. With the help of the Samsara dynasty, all the generals and soldiers improved rapidly. Yi Chen had been searching for a truth these days. That was, why did the demon ancestor Luo Ho appear in the plot quests of the Dragon Tribe, the Phoenix Tribe, and the Kylan Tribe when he died? Was this the need of the plot quests, or was there some other conspiracy? Yi Chen's spies were sent out everywhere. All the information about the demon ancestor Luo Ho was gathered in the throne room of the sacred city of Samsara like snowflakes. Guo Fengxiao, Chen Gong, and the others were sorting out all the valuable information and presenting it to Yi Chen. After Yi Chen looked through them one by one, he closed his eyes slightly. At this moment, he was practically certain that Luo Ho's death was absolutely true. Moreover, the one that had appeared this time was only the remnant consciousness of demon ancestor Luo Ho. Due to the need of the plot quests, his remnant consciousness was formed. However, this remnant consciousness of the demon ancestor Luo Ho had developed self-awareness and was intending to carry out the resurrection plan. Yi Chen's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness. "You want to resurrect? Have you asked for my permission?" Therefore, the spies of the Samsara dynasty were sent out again. This time, they wanted to find the place where the demon ancestor Luo Ho was in seclusion. They wanted to find the remnant consciousness and destroy it. As for the remnant consciousness of the demon ancestor Luo Ho, for some unknown reason, or perhaps it had foreseen the danger in advance, it had withdrawn all its aura. It was as if it had disappeared from the entire untainted world. No matter what method Yi Chen used, he could not find it. Although Yi Chen was very unwilling, he had no choice but to continue waiting for the moment when the remnant consciousness of the demon ancestor Luo Ho showed a flaw. As long as it dared to show its face, it would be the time of its death. Recently, Yi Chen did not continue to go out. Instead, he stayed in the Samsara dynasty and went into seclusion to consolidate his cultivation. After the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun established the ancient heavenly court, they issued an imperial edict, declaring that the heavens and the earth must obey the rule of the ancient heavenly court. Most of the races were somewhat afraid. With the strength of the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun, most of them dared to be angry but did not dare to speak out. Some of them obeyed in public but disobeyed in private. However, the sorcerer tribe, which was as strong as the devil tribe, did not listen to him at all. This made the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun extremely angry. However, they were also afraid of the strength of the sorcerer tribe. If they directly went to war with them, it would be inevitable that both sides would suffer. Therefore, the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun did not go to war with the sorcerer tribe for the time being. However, small skirmishes continued. With the establishment of the ancient heavenly court, the players of the devil tribe had recently ascended. As soon as they ascended, they were vigorously nurtured by the devil tribe. Therefore, these players of the devil tribe rose very quickly. All kinds of resources and cultivation holy lands were given priority to these players of the devil tribe. Some of the edicts issued by the ancient heavenly court were also biased towards the players of the devil tribe. Although the number of players of the human tribe was huge, under this unfair system, the players of the devil tribe gradually overtook them. Chapter 1448. However, all of this had nothing to do with Yi Chen. It didn't matter if they were from the Shifter clan or the human clan, as long as they didn't provoke him. Just as Yi Chen was about to go into seclusion to cultivate, he received a distress message from the Dragon King of the East Sea. Due to the relationship between Yi Chen and Xiaolongnu, the Dragon King of the East Sea didn't suffer any losses during the war between the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, and the Kirin Clan. Not only did he preserve his strength, but he also took the opportunity to expand his territory. Recently, he had been living quite comfortably. Looking at the distress message from the Dragon King of the East Sea, Yi Chen frowned. Previously, Yi Chen had told the Dragon King of the East Sea to pay attention to the whereabouts of the remaining members of the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, and the Kirin Clan. Once they were found, they were to be gathered together and sent to the Reincarnation Dynasty. Of course, the Dragon King of the East Sea didn't dare to neglect Yi Chen's instructions. He had already informed all the members of the Sea Clan under the East Sea Dragon Palace. Recently, the Dragon King of the East Sea heard that hundreds of purple Kirins were imprisoned on an island in the disordered Star Ocean. The disordered Star Ocean was the territory of the red-eyed unicorn shark. The red-eyed unicorn shark's cultivation was also very terrifying. He had been entrenched there for thousands of years. The Dragon King of the East Sea tried to communicate with him, and asked him to release the purple Kirins. Unfortunately, the red-eyed unicorn shark didn't care about the Dragon King of the East Sea at all. He even swallowed the messenger sent by the East Sea Dragon Palace. The Dragon King of the East Sea was furious. He personally led hundreds of thousands of shrimp soldiers and crab generals to seek an explanation from the red-eyed unicorn shark. However, he was severely injured by the red-eyed unicorn shark. Moreover, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals of the East Sea Dragon Palace also suffered heavy losses. Therefore, the Dragon King of the East Sea had no choice but to send a distress message to Yi Chen. After hearing the message, Yi Chen's eyes emitted 2 rays of cold light. He didn't expect the red-eyed unicorn shark to be so arrogant. In his previous life, Yi Chen had heard of the red-eyed unicorn shark in the disordered Star Ocean. That was a monster with astonishing strength. His strength was earth-shattering. Even the demon tribe and the sorcerer tribe did not dare to provoke him. In the past, there had been a player alliance that had formed an army of several million players to hunt down the crimson-eyed horned shark. In the end, however, the crimson-eyed horned shark had turned the tables on the alliance, resulting in massive losses. Since then, the scattered Star Sea had become a forbidden zone for players. After giving some instructions, Yi Chen soared into the sky and flew in the direction of the scattered Star Seas. His eyes emitted an endless cold light. It was one thing to injure the Dragon King of the Eastern Sea, but before the ancestral Qilin died, he had entrusted the entire Qilin clan to him. In other words, the hundreds of purple Qilins imprisoned by the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark were all Yi Chen's people. When Yi Chen passed by the East Sea, he hesitated for a moment before descending the cloud and entering the East Sea Dragon Palace. No matter what, the Dragon King of the East Sea was severely injured because of him. Even if he didn't mention his relationship with Xiaolongnu, it was reasonable for Yi Chen to come and take a look. When Yi Chen saw the Dragon King of the East Sea, he found that the Dragon King of the East Sea was seriously injured. His face was pale, his hands and feet were trembling, and he was very weak. When the Dragon King of the East Sea saw Yi Chen, he was very excited. With the help of Prime Minister Turtle, he came out to welcome him and said, "Nephew Yi Chen, I'm really sorry this time. Not only did I not succeed, but I also caused you trouble." Yi Chen sized up the Dragon King of the East Sea and knew that he was injured. Yi Chen directly took out a few purple gold elixirs from the small world. These elixirs were refined by high-level alchemists using countless heavenly and earthly treasures in the small world. The medicinal effect was not inferior to the 9 transformations golden elixir of Taishang Laojun. When the Dragon King of the East Sea saw the dazzling purple gold elixirs in Yi Chen's hand, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. The 3 elixirs were emitting wisps of essence. Just by smelling it, the Dragon King of the East Sea trembled and felt refreshed. The Dragon King of the East Sea's breathing was a little rapid. He rubbed his hands embarrassedly and said, "How can I accept this? I've made you spend money again." Yi Chen smiled and said, "No matter what, you were injured because of me. These 3 purple gold elixirs are enough for you to recover. Moreover, the medicinal effect contained in them can also raise your cultivation to another level." The Dragon King of the East Sea beamed with joy. He took the 3 purple gold elixirs with both hands and swallowed one on the spot. The powerful medicinal effect suddenly erupted in the Dragon King of the East Sea's body. The Dragon King of the East Sea only felt a terrifying heat quickly healing his injured limbs and bones in his body. In just half an hour, the Dragon King of the East Sea had become energetic again. He was even in a better state than before. The Dragon King of the East Sea looked at the remaining 2 purple gold elixirs with great joy. He carefully hid them in his sleeve, and his heart was blooming with joy. This injury was really worth it. He didn't expect Yi Chen to be so generous as to give him such a precious elixir. Yi Chen had already asked, "Old Dragon King, tell me what's going on with that bastard in the scattered star sea." At the mention of this, a trace of panic involuntarily flashed through the eyes of the old Dragon King. He took a deep breath and said with lingering fear, "I originally thought that bastard was just a guy with a slightly higher cultivation than me. When I heard that some purple Qilins were captured by him, I recalled your instructions. Thus, I took 100,000 shrimp soldiers and crab generals to the scattered star seas to find that scarlet-eyed unicorn shark and ask for them. I didn't expect that guy to be so unreasonable. He didn't even listen to what I had to say before attacking me. I'm ashamed to say that I wasn't even his match. My shrimp soldiers and crab generals also suffered heavy losses. If it weren't for Prime Minister Turtle and the others risking their lives to protect me, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to come back." Speaking of this, the old Dragon King angrily slammed the table. "After I came back, I mobilized all my resources to investigate the background of that red-eyed single-horned shark. I really found some clues. That is, that red-eyed single-horned shark is not like the rumors outside. His roots are very deep. Now, I am very suspicious that his origin may be a remnant soul that escaped from one of the 3,000 fiend gods that Pangu killed when he created the world." Yi Chen immediately frowned when he heard this. He didn't expect the old Dragon King to suspect that this red-eyed unicorn shark was a remnant soul of one of the 3,000 fiend gods that Pangu killed when he created the world. If that was the case, things would be troublesome. One must know that those 3,000 fiend gods were not ordinary fiend god. They all had great origins, and were even older than the current 3 Pure Ones. If they weren't killed by Pangu, how could the 3 Pure Ones, Eastern Emperor Tai, Emperor Jun, and the others have risen? However, Yi Chen was still not afraid. With his current cultivation, he could go anywhere in the world. Chapter 1449. Yi Chen didn't want to waste any more time here. He directly soared into the sky, quickly flying towards the legendary Scattered Star Sea. In his previous life, Yi Chen had followed some other players' teams to gain experience in the vicinity of the Scattered Star Sea. Therefore, he still had some impression of the Scattered Star Sea. In just 3 hours, Yi Chen had already appeared at the edge of the Scattered Star Sea. Sure enough, this place was still the same as in his previous life. There was some gray fog everywhere, surrounding the entire Scattered Star Sea. Ordinary players would immediately lose their sense of direction after entering. Even their spiritual power would be suppressed to a certain extent after entering the Star Sea. Yi Chen's huge spiritual power shrouded the gray fog in the vicinity. Sure enough, he found that there was some strange power in this gray fog that could continuously erode the spiritual power of people. With his current cultivation, his spiritual power was actually suppressed to the point that he could only release it to a distance of several tens of thousands of feet. Slowly, Yi Chen's mouth revealed a trace of a sneer. This was a bit interesting. This gray fog and the fog in the fog swamp were somewhat similar. Although it wasn't the kind of netherworld demonic chi, it could still erode a person's spiritual power. Yi Chen also became more and more interested in this scarlet-eyed unicorn shark that was suspected by the Dragon King of the East Sea to be one of the 3,000 gods and demons. He gently took a step forward and directly entered this gray fog. Stepping into this gray fog was equivalent to appearing in the range of the Scattered Star Sea. The Chaotic Star Sea, as its name implied, was filled with small islands that dotted the boundless Chaotic Star Sea. They were like stars embedded in the starry sky, which was why it was called the Chaotic Star Sea. However, the Scattered Star Sea was deathly still. It was quiet all around, and the sea was also calm. A gentle breeze blew, but it couldn't withstand the slightest wave. Yi Chen's spiritual power passed through the sea surface, but he didn't find any sea creatures. This place was like a silent dead sea, revealing strangeness everywhere. The same was true for these islands dotting the Scattered Star Sea. The plants on these islands showed a strange greenish-gray color. Above these green plants there was a kind of gas that could make people feel dizzy. Yi Chen frowned slightly. This seemed to be different from the information he had obtained in his previous life. In his previous life, Yi Chen had heard that when players formed a team to encircle the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark, they were ambushed by many unknown creatures. It was said that those were the demonic beasts of the Chaotic Star Sea. However, there was no sign of any demonic beast. Yi Chen released his spiritual consciousness and quickly flew over the Chaotic Star Sea. Very quickly, Yi Chen locked onto a huge island in front of him. This island occupied a very large area, and one couldn't see the end of it at a glance. It was even larger than a state in the great desolate continent. However, there was nothing on this island. It seemed to be just a piece of sand. After Yi Chen landed, he discovered that this was indeed a desolate desert without a single hair on it. Yi Chen shook his head slightly. He didn't expect that there would be such a place in the Scattered Star Sea. When his feet landed on this desert, he felt a scalding heat. The temperature of the sand was astonishingly hot. Yi Chen felt it for a moment. The temperature of the sand in this desert was actually as high as hundreds of degrees. No wonder there were no plants here. Even if there were, they would have been burnt long ago. But why was the temperature here so high? This was a bit puzzling. He carefully observed for a while and found that the seawater around the island was bubbling and steaming. It seemed that all the seawater within 100 meters of the island was boiling and constantly boiling. Yi Chen had a feeling that the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark he was looking for this time was most likely hiding on this island. He couldn't say why, but there seemed to be a kind of feeling in the dark. There was an extremely evil aura in the depths of this island. This kind of grey and berserk aura with traces of blood was roaming around. Yi Chen hadn't had this kind of feeling for a long time. It seemed that this scarlet-eyed unicorn shark was much more evil than any demon beast he had encountered. He also didn't understand why this scarlet-eyed unicorn shark imprisoned those purple cheilans. Yi Chen's face was cold. He directly summoned the Lava Dragon King. As soon as the Lava Dragon King came out, it immediately screamed, "It's so hot! What the hell is this place? Why is the temperature so high? It's so comfortable!" The Lava Dragon King screamed and rolled around in the desert excitedly. The corners of Yi Chen's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. He forgot that the Lava Dragon King was born with a love for fire. When they first met, the Lava Dragon King was burning with flames all over its body. And later, according to the Lava Dragon King, the place it lived in had a temperature of hundreds of degrees all year round. Fortunately, Yi Chen didn't stop the Lava Dragon King from playing around. The Lava Dragon King kept tossing around in the desert, rolling back and forth. Countless yellow sand fluttered in the air, circling and whistling in the sky. They were like flood dragons made of yellow sand, constantly circling around the Lava Dragon King, and then sprinkling down in the desert. The Lava Dragon King was having a good time. It ran to Yi Chen's side and said with a smile, "Master, what is this place? That's great. Where did you find this blessed enclave?" Yi Chen shook his head and said, "Who said this is a paradise? There's an evil guy hiding in this desert. I came this time to find him. Since you've adapted to the environment here, then go ahead and do whatever you want. Force that guy out from me." After hearing this, the Lava Dragon King suddenly laughed and said, "Master, don't worry. Leave this small task to me. If he doesn't come out, then I'll turn this place upside down." After saying that, the Lava Dragon King soared into the sky and whistled all the way. Wherever the Lava Dragon King passed by, countless yellow sand billowed. Accompanied by the shaking of the earth and mountains, the whole desert was like a magnitude 12 earthquake. It was really earth-shattering. The sky above the desert was filled with thunderous booms. The air was filled with terrifying explosions, and the energy in the surroundings had become chaotic. There were even bottomless pits one after another, as if they were hit by meteors. Sand and stones were flying, and the wind was blowing. On the other hand, Yi Chen was leisurely following behind the Lava Dragon King. On the surface of his body, there was a transparent energy shield protecting him. The wind and waves outside couldn't affect him at all. Chapter 1450. Now Yi Chen was watching the Lava Dragon King's performance. Sure enough, after the Lava Dragon King tossed and turned for about half an hour, countless scarlet mist suddenly appeared in the surroundings. The whole desert seemed to be imprisoned by an invisible force. The yellow sand that rose into the air was all suspended in the air, motionless. Then, it slowly fell into the desert. A gloomy and terrifying voice sounded out of nowhere, "Reckless things, how dare you disturb my meditation? Tell me, how do you want to die?" The voice came from all directions. Even if Yi Chen looked carefully, he couldn't find where the voice came from. The Lava Dragon King turned its head to look at Yi Chen. Seeing that Yi Chen didn't give it any new instructions, it suddenly flew into the sky arrogantly. Then, it mocked loudly, "Sneaky grandson, your grandpa is here. Hurry up and come out to greet him. If you make my master unhappy, you'll be crushed into ashes. You little loach, you're really arrogant." The voice in the darkness was so angry that it laughed. Suddenly, countless yellow sand condensed into a huge palm. After it appeared out of thin air, it grabbed at the Lava Dragon King. At this time, the Lava Dragon King's body had already recovered to more than 100,000 feet, and this huge palm seemed to be able to completely grab it. The Lava Dragon King sneered contemptuously, then suddenly slammed into the palm. After a loud bang, the huge palm made of yellow sand was immediately smashed into pieces, turning into yellow sand that scattered on the ground. Obviously, the Lava Dragon King didn't have it any better. It shook its somewhat dizzy head and said with some surprise, "Sneaky grandson, I didn't expect you to have some brute strength. You actually hurt your grandpa. Show me what you've got." "Damned little bug, it seems like I've underestimated you. Your bloodline is quite interesting. If my pet eats it, it can evolve once again. Come out, my little sweetheart." As soon as its voice fell, it suddenly rolled violently. Then, a huge crack appeared on the ground like a bottomless abyss. A huge head slowly rose from the abyss. This head was so huge that it was even bigger than a towering mountain. The first thing that could be seen were two blood-red eyes the size of a small house. The pair of incomparably huge eyes emitted a scarlet light. What was even more frightening was that there was nothing but scarlet light in those eyes. There were two continuous holes in those eyes that were constantly flowing with blood. Then, a huge body slowly rose from the bottom of the desert. The Lava Dragon King's body was already big enough. Yi Chen didn't expect this guy to be even bigger than the Lava Dragon King. His entire body was shrouded in a scarlet mist that was constantly flowing in and out of his 7 orifices. When Yi Chen saw the monster's appearance, he suddenly frowned. And he blurted out, "Why is it here?" The guy in the dark obviously heard Yi Chen's voice. He said in surprise, "I didn't expect you to be so knowledgeable." "That's right. My sweetheart used to be the white tiger sacred beast in the ancient heavenly court. But now he has become my pet. I have completely transformed him into a powerful and peerless fierce tiger. How about it? Isn't he cute?" Hearing this, Yi Chen took a deep breath and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. The white tiger sacred beast. When he participated in the Feast of Peaches, he had seen it from afar and remembered its aura. At that time, the white tiger sacred beast was following behind Dong Wang Tai and Di Jun. He was one of their generals, and his cultivation had reached the peak of gold immortal. Naturally, his strength was not to be underestimated. Yi Chen didn't expect that the white tiger sacred beast would be tortured to such a state by this guy. This white tiger sacred beast was no longer the original one. Its consciousness had completely disappeared. Even its divine soul had been completely obliterated. Now, the white tiger sacred beast had become a mindless beast that only knew how to kill. However, this trick couldn't scare him. Yi Chen sneered and said, "If I'm not wrong, you are the red-eyed unicorn shark. Let me ask you, did you imprison hundreds of purple cheilants here and injure the Dragon King of the East Sea? But it doesn't matter. After I swallow the 2 of you, I will leave this place. This world owes me too much. I will take it all back. The first thing I want to do is to swallow all the lazy loaches in the East Sea." The voice in the dark suddenly realized something and said, "You are the reinforcements that the little dragon found. The last time he came, I was at the critical moment of transforming my sweetheart. I didn't have the time to deal with him and he escaped. But it doesn't matter. After I swallow the 2 of you, I will leave this place. This world owes me too much." Yi Chen's eyes flashed, but he didn't speak. It wasn't because he was afraid, but because he was trying hard to recall whether this guy was bluffing. Because in his previous life, until the moment of his rebirth, this guy didn't leave the scattered star ocean, let alone bring disaster to the world. The Lava Dragon King seemed to be a little impatient. It roared crazily. "This big fool looks very scary, but is he a paper tiger? Let your grandpa have a try." Then, the Lava Dragon King opened its bloody mouth and spat out a white flame. In the blink of an eye, the mutated white tiger holy beast was surrounded and set ablaze. Even from such a distance, Yi Chen could still feel the scorching heat rushing towards him. Yi Chen estimated that the white flame of the Lava Dragon King was at least thousands of degrees. The temperature was enough to melt gold and stone. The scarlet mist around the white tiger sacred beast was tumbling violently because of the flame, emitting a wave of unpleasant smell. But this scarlet mist had a strange ability. It could constantly absorb the white flame spat out by the lava dragon king and isolate it from its body. After the lava dragon king saw that its flame was ineffective against the target, it became a little angry. It continued to spit out flames, and it was getting fiercer and fiercer, as if it was going to ignite the whole desert. After an hour or so, the white tiger holy beast suddenly let out a roar. Its body shook violently, and it actually dispersed the white flames. Chapter 1451. The white tiger holy beast also suddenly spewed out a dark green gas, which surrounded the lava dragon king in the blink of an eye. This dark green gas carried an unbearable stench. When it came in contact with the lava dragon king's scales, it issued a sizzling sound, constantly corroding the scales that were harder than gold and iron. Soon, mold-like spots appeared on the huge and beautiful body of the lava dragon king, and it quickly decayed. The lava dragon king was scared and shouted, "What the hell is this?" It rolled fiercely in the air, using all its strength, but it still couldn't get rid of the dark green gas on its body. Yi Chen slightly narrowed his eyes. The poisonous gas of the white tiger holy beast was indeed rare in the world. If this dark green gas flowed outside, just a trace of it would be enough to slaughter the people of a city. Yi Chen directly stretched out a finger, and an invisible chi entered the forehead of the lava dragon king in the blink of an eye, then its body suddenly emitted a soft white light. The maggot-like green gas on his body was completely dispelled, and the corroded scales on his body quickly recovered. Lava Dragon King let out a sigh of relief and said gratefully, "Thank you, Master, for saving my life. I almost got tricked by this damn thing." Yi Chen expressionlessly said, "Don't be too careless, this guy is not simple, get rid of it as soon as possible." After the Lava Dragon King saw that the green gas that it was afraid of couldn't cause any substantial damage to it, it suddenly laughed proudly, and rushed towards the white tiger holy beast again. The white tiger holy beast didn't seem to believe it, and once again spewed out the dark green gas. But when this gas came in contact with the Lava Dragon King, it seemed to be separated by an invisible barrier, and couldn't touch the Lava Dragon King's body at all. The two incomparably huge demon beasts were fighting fiercely at this time. Fierce energy collided, and terrifying energy wantonly spread everywhere. As the two giant beasts collided, the entire desert could not bear the heavy burden and let out a series of loud noises. The Lava Dragon King seemed to be truly enraged. Ignoring the white tiger holy beast's claws, it tore off one of the white tiger holy beast's forelegs. Then, the Lava Dragon King roared and swallowed the foreleg. Although the white tiger holy beast had lost its mind, its instincts were still there. The pain of losing its front leg made it roar miserably. The white tiger holy beast's body trembled violently. A mass of scarlet demon chi was wriggling around its broken foreleg. Then, a new foreleg grew out at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Lava Dragon King was also shocked by this. He roared and revealed a cruel smile. "I didn't expect you to have this kind of ability. Let's see if I can feed you faster or if you can grow faster." After saying that, the Lava Dragon King pounced on the white tiger holy beast again. After hundreds of rounds, the Lava Dragon King tore off the white tiger holy beast's foreleg again. This time, even the tail of the white tiger holy beast was pulled off by the Lava Dragon King. The white tiger holy beast howled madly. Although it grew out its foreleg and tail again, the speed was much slower this time, and the newly grown foreleg was obviously not as flexible as before. It looked like it was limping. The Lava Dragon King had an opportunity to take advantage of this. Its body nimbly circled around the white tiger holy beast, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. From time to time, it stretched out its huge claws and tore off a piece of bloody flesh from the white tiger holy beast's body. The flesh of the white tiger holy beast carried that strange scarlet demon chi. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't dare to try it at all. But they didn't know the internal structure of the Lava Dragon King, so they ate it happily without any fear. This made the red-eyed single-horned shark, who originally wanted to control the Lava Dragon King after it was infected by the demon Chi, become furious and roared madly. Unfortunately, the white tiger holy beast was powerless. Under the attacks of the Lava Dragon King, its reaction became slower and slower. Finally, with a bang, the white tiger holy beast lost its 2 forelegs and fell to the ground. The Lava Dragon King pounced on the white tiger holy beast fiercely, opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the white tiger holy beast bit by bit. After swallowing the white tiger holy beast that was even bigger than itself, the Lava Dragon King seemed to be full. It burped from time to time and spat out mouthfuls of red poisonous gas. It was like it was drunk. The flames all over its body flickered between green and red. It staggered to Yi Chen's side and fell to the ground with a plop. It said in a muffled voice, "Master, I'm too full. I can't move now. I need to digest it properly. It will take about 3 months." Yi Chen glanced at it with his divine sense. He knew that this guy's body already contained a huge amount of energy. It really needed time to settle and absorb it. After absorbing it, this guy's cultivation base would probably break through again. So he nodded and put away the Lava Dragon King with a wave of his hand. The reason why the Lava Dragon King wasn't corroded by the Scarlet Demon Chi was not only because of its strange internal structure, but also because of the trace of energy that Yi Chen gave it. Yi Chen's mouth showed a slight smile. It seemed that the Qilin Cliff was really useful. Just now, he just extracted a wisp of energy from the Qilin Cliff and sent it into the Lava Dragon King's body. It could actually block this evil poisonous gas in its body. It seemed that the Qilin Cliff was immune to all negative and evil things. It was definitely worthy of its reputation. At this time, the gloomy voice in the darkness sounded again. "You can actually ignore my nether poison gas. Boy, do you have the supreme treasure of the Qilin clan on you? What the hell is it? Quickly take it out and let me have a look." This made Yi Chen curious. He didn't expect that the red-eyed single-horned shark could guess that he had the supreme treasure of the Qilin clan. Yi Chen sneered and said, "Who do you think you are? Show your true form if you have the gut." The red-eyed single-horned shark seemed to have become angry. He roared fiercely and said, "Since you are so curious about me, I will fulfill your wish." Then, Yi Chen felt as if the world had been turned upside down. This was truly the world being turned upside down. This was because Yi Chen could clearly feel that the desert beneath his feet was tilting. Slowly, the entire desert was turning upside down, head down and feet up. Chapter 1452. The entire desert had flipped over in an extremely strange position. Yi Chen immediately adjusted his state and floated in the air. He was still wrapped in a layer of transparent energy shield. He frowned and lifted his head to look at the boundless desert in the sky. Countless grains of yellow sand condensed above his head, like yellow clouds one after another. Moreover, the height of the desert was constantly decreasing, as though it wanted to crush him into the ground. Below Yi Chen was an endless void. This was the first time he had encountered such a strange situation. Yi Chen immediately activated his eyes of fire and gold. Under the eyes of fire and gold, all falsehoods and illusions were exposed. He was surprised to find that the desert above his head was real. In other words, the desert had really flipped over. Yi Chen sneered and the Rui Jingu Bang appeared in his hand. Since the desert had turned into the sky, he would shatter the sky first. Therefore, Yi Chen let out a long roar and waved the Jingu Bang in his hand. In an instant, the Jingu Bang in his hand continued to elongate and expand. In the blink of an eye, it became a pillar that supported the heavens. Yi Chen hugged one end of the Rui Jingu Bang and laughed maniacally. Immediately after, there was a loud boom. The Jingu Bang crashed into the desert in the sky. Instantly, the Rui Jingu Bang smashed a huge hole in the desert. Yi Chen estimated that the Rui Jingu Bang was at least a few thousand zhang deep into the desert. Even so, it didn't seem to have hit the bottom. It didn't penetrate the desert. However, this wasn't a problem for Yi Chen. Therefore, he shook the Rui Jingu Bang forcefully. In an instant, the desert in the sky seemed to have flipped over. It spun and roared crazily. The endless yellow sand formed flood dragons and coiled around Yi Chen. Yi Chen's body suddenly emitted a blinding golden light. Before the flood dragons formed by the yellow sand could get close to him, they were shattered. Yellow sand sprinkled down from the sky, as if there was a yellow sand rainstorm. However, what was surprising was that, after the yellow sand descended to a certain height, it automatically flew back into the sky and merged with the entire desert. Things were getting more and more interesting. Just as Yi Chen was about to continue stirring up the winds and clouds to disperse the entire desert, a huge attractive force came from below. Yi Chen was unable to resist it. Involuntarily, the Rui Jingu Bang fell from the sky. When it landed in the transparent void beneath its feet, it suddenly felt like it had fallen into water. After descending for an unknown period of time, they appeared in a space that they had never been to before. There seemed to be no gravity here. Even without the support of magic power, Yi Chen was still able to float in the air. Above his head were countless stars, but there was still nothing beneath his feet. Yi Chen immediately discovered that the itinerary was fake, because Yi Chen did not find any star power in it. It was as if it had been deliberately inlaid. "Brat, didn't you want to see me? I'm here now." Yi Chen heard the familiar eerie voice of the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark in his mind. He turned his head abruptly, and his pupils suddenly shrank. A huge shark had appeared behind him. Yi Chen was not shocked by the huge shark. The main thing was that this guy was too big. The entire space was filled with his huge body. Yi Chen roughly estimated that he was at least a few million zhang long. If the Lava Dragon King was in front of him, it would be like a small loach. The huge shark's scarlet eyes shot out an evil red light. Yi Chen only felt his body temperature drop by a few degrees. Now there was only one sentence left in Yi Chen's mind. There was a fish in the North Sea. Its name was Kuan. The Kuan was so big that it could not be stewed in a pot. Yi Chen had never seen the legendary Kuan, but this huge shark was indeed huge. "Didn't you want to see me? Now I'm here. Give me the treasure of the Kailan tribe." Yi Chen had already calmed down after the shock. He sneered, twirling the Rui Jingu Bang in his hand, and said, "What a big fish! If I bring it back, the whole Samsara dynasty will have a good meal. But where can I find such a big pot? This is really a headache." The shark did not seem to expect Yi Chen to say such words. As it entered, the thunderous voice sounded again. "Little guy, are you scared out of your wits? Who gave you the courage to say such words to me? Do you know who I am?" Seeing that Yi Chen had no intention of continuing, the shark continued, "I was originally one of the 3,000 fiend gods who were born in this world. Back then, when Pan Gu created the world, that little brat didn't keep his promise and ambushed us. I was smart enough to escape with a wisp of my soul. Originally, this world belonged to us. If I hadn't been seriously injured at that time, Hongjun wouldn't have had a chance. Now that I've been reborn, it's time to take back what belongs to me. Boy, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and surrender to me. I promise you will get everything you dream of in this world." After he finished speaking, he did not see the excited look on Yi Chen's face as he had imagined. Yi Chen stared at him with a faint smile. He sneered and said, "Old thing, you have a lot of fun bragging, don't you? If you have really recovered your cultivation, why are you talking nonsense with me here? If I'm not wrong, you are just bluffing, right?" The red-eyed unicorn shark seemed to be extremely angry. He suddenly swung his tail, and the whole space began to shake. "Little ant, don't be so shameless. If you make me angry, I will pull out your divine soul and burn it with the fire of hell. I will make you wail day and night for 1,000 years, and you will not be reincarnated." Haha, this small fire is a good way to cook you. Thank you for your reminder. I've already thought of a way to cook you. Why do I need to find such a big pot? I'll use my Rui Jingu Bang to tie you up and cook you with a small fire for a grilled fish feast. I think it will taste good. After that, Yi Chen raised the Rui Jingu Bang in his hand and said, "Don't talk too much. Let me see if you are bluffing or not." Yi Chen suddenly roared and leaped high into the air. The Rui Jingu Bang in his hand smashed down viciously with a force that could split a mountain. The wind whistled and the air shook. Chapter 1453. Yi Chen's chaotic sacred body was fully activated. Air billows rolled around, and the air in the entire space was fragmented. Yi Chen's staff seemed to be indestructible. There was nothing in the world that could stop it. With a vigorous aura, it smashed down crazily as if it was splitting the sky and earth. The red-eye unicorn shark obviously didn't expect Yi Chen to make a move. After a furious roar, countless scarlet blood chi appeared around the red-eye unicorn shark. In an instant, the red-eye unicorn shark seemed to be like the 3,000 demon gods that were revived at the time of the creation of the world. With a ferocious aura behind him, there were even countless hellfire burning behind him. Just like that, he smashed towards Yi Chen with surging lava. A loud boom was heard. Yi Chen's staff had expanded by hundreds of times in the air. It smashed onto the red-eye unicorn shark's head. The earth shook and the sky turned upside down. This terrifying energy fluctuation spread out in all directions. The void in this area was also violently twisting. It seemed like it couldn't withstand the impact of this terrifying energy and could collapse at any time. At the same time, the color of the surrounding space had also turned blood-red. Countless energy fluctuations were fluctuating like monstrous waves. The scarlet-eyed unicorn shark let out a miserable shriek and shook its head crazily. Yi Chen immediately retreated several thousand feet away. His arm was faintly numb. Yi Chen sneered. This guy's defense was really strong. However, this was also within his expectations. However, this also aroused his blood. It had been a long time since he fought to his heart's content. Yi Chen laughed wildly and waved the Rui Jingu Bang in his hand. His killing intent was soaring. Once again, he pounced towards the red-eye unicorn shark. Yi Chen had already felt that his guess was right. The red-eye unicorn shark had yet to recover from its injuries. It was just a bluff. In that case, there was no reason for him to miss this opportunity. One had to know that this was an ancient demon god left behind during the creation of the world. After killing him, who knew what benefits there would be? After the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark was seen through by Yi Chen, it was immediately enraged. Although it had yet to recover from its injuries, its foundation was still there. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse, not to mention his powerful divine sense. If not for this, he would not have lured the white tiger sacred beast into the desert and refined it into a puppet beast that only knew how to kill. However, his huge spiritual sense was nothing in front of Yi Chen. Moreover, this guy was incomparably barbaric. His strength was incomparably strong. In addition, Yi Chen's means were endless. The entire space shook, and the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark was really in the middle of the 9 heavens of ice and fire. Yi Chen used the techniques he had learned from the ancestral phoenix and the ancestral dragon one after another. Although this attack wasn't fatal to the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark, it was still very disgusting. The scarlet-eyed unicorn shark could only use 80% of its strength. This was already very bad. Yi Chen already had victory in his grasp. He observed the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark from time to time. If he wasn't worried about messing up the shark's body, he would have already summoned those netherworld mantises. Once these netherworld mantises attacked, the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's body would be destroyed. That would be too wasteful. Yi Chen didn't know how much strength he would gain if his Samsara Legion ate this god from the time of Pangu's creation. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Therefore, the attack became even fiercer. Yi Chen struck with lightning speed. With the Rui Jingu bang in his hand, he swung it up and down. The clouds in the surroundings churned as though a hurricane was blowing. The Rui Jingu bang broke through the space like a golden stream of light, hitting the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark and making it scream. In the end, the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark suddenly let out a crazy roar. "Kid, don't think that you can eat me now. Do you know where you are? This is my domain. I have the final say here." Immediately after, an extremely terrifying aura surged from the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark. Yi Chen instinctively sensed great danger. But before he could react, the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's body flashed and disappeared into thin air. Just as Yi Chen was searching around, the surrounding light suddenly dimmed. Then the surrounding space kept squeezing. An extremely strong suction force came, enveloping Yi Chen and dragging him into the distance. Yi Chen felt as if he had fallen into a huge pool of water. The first thing he did was to use a transparent energy shield to protect himself. At this moment, he saw through his eyes of fire and gold that he seemed to have fallen into a huge passageway. And below him was a huge pool. These pools emitted an unpleasant smell, and unexpectedly, they were constantly corroding the protective barrier on his body. But this time, the Qilin cliffs didn't have any effect. This made Yi Chen feel somewhat strange. What exactly was this place? At this moment, the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's complacent smile came from all directions. "Little brat, no matter how powerful you are, you were still swallowed by me. Just wait for me to completely dissolve you and turn you into a part of my body." Yi Chen was shocked. So this was the stomach of the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark. Just now, it had swallowed it in one gulp. Then, wasn't this sticky thing its gastric juices? No wonder the cliff of Qilin didn't have any reaction. Yi Chen waved the Rui Jingu bang and smashed it on the wall beside him. Instantly, he felt as though he had smashed on a thick layer of rubber. A strong rebounding force bounced the Rui Jingu bang back. He didn't expect the stomach wall of the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark to be so sturdy. However, even though he was in the stomach of the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark, Yi Chen didn't panic. So what if the tooth of Qilin didn't work? He still had other supreme treasures on him. With a flash of light on his wrist, the innate calabash ting appeared. It automatically transformed into a 7-colored lotus platform under his feet, supporting Yi Chen in this space. The aura of the innate calabash ting merged with his energy shield, making him even more carefree. "Since I can't break through your defense, then I'll just stuff your stomach until it explodes." Yi Chen sneered and raised the Rui Jingu bang in his hand. With a thought, the Rui Jingu bang expanded crazily. In the blink of an eye, the Rui Jingu bang was tens of thousands of zhang tall. Dozens of people couldn't even wrap their arms around it. Chapter 1454. No matter how the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark struggled and rolled, Yi Chen just sat there calmly. He blocked the exit with the Jingu bang, letting these ghost mantises crazily gnaw on the shark's internal organs. Even if this scarlet-eyed unicorn shark was possessed by the remnant consciousness of the demon god that had escaped, at this moment, the remnant consciousness had completely fused with this scarlet-eyed unicorn shark. Even if it wanted to escape, it wouldn't be easy. If this scarlet-eyed unicorn shark died, then that strand of devil god's spirit would eventually disappear from the world. Sensing the sharp pain and growing weakness in its body, the shark had no choice but to compromise. "Human boy, come out and let's have a good talk. Don't worry, I won't attack you again. I promise you with my dignity." Yi Chen scornfully sneered, then said coldly, "You're just a strand of spirit struggling at death's door. What dignity do you have to talk to me about? Are you worthy? At first, I wanted to have a good talk with you, but you insisted on playing violence with me. Now, I'm playing violence with you, and you want to have a good talk with me? Isn't that funny?" The shark was thoroughly infuriated. With its status, when had it ever talked to anyone in such a humble manner? This damned human boy didn't appreciate it at all. If it had the chance, it would tie him to a stake and roast him in the earth core fire for 10,000 years. But now, the red-eyed unicorn shark had no choice but to smile and say, "Master of the human race, it's my fault. I'm old and muddle-headed, and I offended you. I won't dare to do it again. I beg you to spare my dog life. By the way, aren't you looking for those purple cheilants? I know where they are. Let me go and I'll take you there, okay?" Yi Chen was not moved at all. "You don't need to worry. After I kill you, I can find them all the same." The scarlet-eyed unicorn shark was anxious. It desperately tried to think of a way. "No, that place is very hidden. Other than me, no one can find it. Please let me go. If you really can't do it, I will submit to you. I will be your pet, okay?" Yi Chen did not say anything. He snorted coldly in his heart. He knew very well what this demonic god was. This demonic god's remnant thought was a mixture of the most vicious, evil, and shameless thoughts in the world. To him, there was no loyalty to speak of. Moreover, he was now just a remnant thought, so there was no value in accepting him. With his acquiescence, these nether mantises quickly devoured the stomach of the red-eyed unicorn shark. No matter how strong the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's recovery ability was, it had exhausted all of its energy. At this time, the nether mantis had already continued to devour the other organs of the red-eyed unicorn shark. The scarlet-eyed unicorn shark rolled around in pain and despair. He knew that Yi Chen would never let him go. At this time, he was already extremely weak. At last, the shark roared out in despair and viciously, "Damnable human ant, do you really think you can eat me? At worst, I'll fight you to the death and perish together with you. After I escape from this remnant soul and find a body, I can make a comeback after 100,000 years. The world will still be mine." After saying that, an extremely violent energy suddenly surged out of the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's body and gathered crazily. Yi Chen's eyes suddenly turned sharp. He understood the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's plan. He was going to blow himself up. With the cultivation base of this scarlet-eyed unicorn shark, if he blew himself up, perhaps the entire sea would sink completely. His wishful thinking was to take advantage of the chaos and let his remnant thought escape again. How could Yi Chen let his wishful thinking succeed? His powerful divine sense immediately locked onto the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's body. Using his powerful divine sense, Yi Chen scanned every single cell in the shark's body for dozens of times. Finally, a ferocious grin emerged on the corner of his mouth. "Found you!" In an instant, Yi Chen disappeared from where he was. The next moment, he appeared somewhere in the belly of the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark. The Rui Jingu bang in his hand suddenly disappeared, followed by the godslayer that he had not seen for a long time. The god-slaying spear brought with it a sharp whistling sound as it pierced towards a place that looked no different from any other part of his body. Puff! As if something had been pierced, a frantic scream was immediately heard. The godslayer's spear tip was holding a fuzzy gray shadow, which was changing into various shapes and struggling desperately. But the godslayer had the characteristic of destroying souls. Yi Chen knew that this was the remnant thought of the demon god. He poured all his strength into the godslayer and went all out. In the end, the remnant thought of the demon god let out an extremely unwilling roar and finally turned into ashes. And the moment this strange wisp disappeared, the scarlet-eyed unicorn shark became stiff in place, without any aura of life. Yi Chen casually waved his hand and collected all the nether mantises. This time, these ghost mantises also gained a lot. Each of them grew several times in size. He could not let them eat the rest. The surrounding environment also underwent earth-shattering changes. In the next instant, they reappeared in the desert. The scarlet-eyed unicorn shark's huge body was lying there. Yi Chen stroked his chin and nodded. This was really big. It was enough for all the warriors of the Samsara Legion to have a good meal. With a wave of his hand, he put the big fish into his small world. At this moment, A sudden clap of thunder sounded in the sky. A system announcement sounded in the World Channel. System announcement. Congratulations to player Yi Chen for successfully eliminating the remnant thought of the demon god that escaped when Pangu created the world. He has eliminated a hidden danger for the Eldritch world. Yi Chen is rewarded with 5,008 attribute points and 20 million supreme grade immortal stones. Everyone, congratulations to him. The system announcement was broadcasted 3 times in a row, causing a huge uproar. The human players were elated. Haha, great god Yi Chen is really amazing. He actually eliminated the remnant thought of the demon god. That's right. That's the remnant thought of the 3,000 demon gods that Pangu killed when he created the world. He must be very powerful to be able to survive until now. So what if he's powerful? He can only die if he meets great god Yi Chen. The players were all full of admiration and praise for Yi Chen, but the shifter players were different. What's there to be proud of? Didn't he just eliminate a small remnant thought? That's because he didn't meet me. Otherwise, I, Fat Tiger, could strangle him to death with one hand. Human scum like to make a fuss. If he met me, Iron Lion, I could kill him with a sneeze. If you ask me, Yi Chen is just lucky. That's right, that's right. We shifter race control the world now. Those humans are only fit to be our slaves. Chapter 1455. The human players did not want to be outdone and retorted in the World Channel. Shifter bastards, if you have the time to bark here, why don't you go challenge Yi Chen to a duel? The moment he said that, the shifter race players were speechless. Everyone knew how to talk, but if they wanted to fight Yi Chen one-on-one, wasn't that just courting death? However, the human players did not want to let them off so easily. Someone continued to speak. Why aren't you talking? Are you dumb? Don't you know where Yi Chen is? I can tell you where Samsara City is in the northwest Yunzhou. You can find him there. You don't need me to show you the way, do you? The shifter players finally became angry. They said fiercely, "Human trash, don't be so cocky. How many of you are Yi Chen? We can't afford to offend Yi Chen, but who do you think you are? Just wait and see." As usual, Yi Chen ignored the commotion in the World Channel. After searching the scattered star seas for a while, he found the hundreds of purple cheilants on a hidden island. These purple cheilants were all weak and dispirited. After asking, Yi Chen found out that the cheilants were originally the auspicious signs of the primitive continent. The reason why the red-eyed unicorn shark imprisoned them was to use their auspicious signs to hide the aura of the demon god's remnant thought. It did not expect Yi Chen to find them. Yi Chen shook his head and sighed. The cheilants were really unfortunate. Fortunately, they met him. These purple cheilants might be weak now, but when they recovered, they would at least be golden immortals. If they were lucky, they might even be Daluo Jinxian level masters. Yi Chen kept all the purple cheilants in his small world. Next, it was time to return to the sacred city of Samsara. He pushed his speed to the limit and traversed the void. When he passed by a mountain lake, the noise from below caught his attention. From time to time, loud roars and the sound of metal clashing could be heard from the valley. Looking down from above, he saw 8 fully armed human players besieging a green-scaled python. This green-scaled python was more than 300 feet long and as thick as a water bucket. The scales on its body were the size of a pot lid and emitted a green light. On its head, which was like a locomotive, there seemed to be a red flame burning. This was a green-scaled python with the strength of a demon king. As for the 8 players who were besieging him, they were not weak either. Basically, they were all human immortals. Their teamwork was very good. Moreover, their equipment was very neat, a full set of supreme-grade spiritual equipment. The tallest man among them was holding an immortal weapon in his hand. Originally, the 8 players were no match for the green-scaled python, but they had set up a formation in advance. Once the green-scaled python was lured into the formation, its strength was greatly weakened. The tall player roared, and the immortal tier bronze axe in his hand emitted a golden light as it slammed down. Boom! The green-scaled python screamed, and a huge wound split open on its body. Smelly blood kept spurting out. The green-scaled python let out a painful roar, and its huge body twisted desperately. Even the millstone-sized stones were directly smashed into powder by its tail. The tall player waved his fist excitedly and said, "Brothers, let's work harder. Master Yi Chun has already killed the demon god's remnant spirit. We can't fall behind. Hurry up and kill this green-scaled python. Who knows, we might even get an immortal weapon." Another player said with a smile, "Brother Qing, how can we compare to God Yi Chun? If we can really get an immortal tier equipment, we'll be rich." Haha, there's motivation when there's a goal. Everyone, cheer up. This green-scaled python is obviously an arrow at the end of its flight. It's going to go all out. Don't be careless and get hurt or killed by it. That won't be worth it. At this time, the only woman in the team said in a sweet voice, "Brothers, can I have the first pick of the equipment? You see that I'm covered in spirit tier equipment. I wonder how it feels to use an immortal weapon?" The man called Brother Qing laughed and said, "Sister Jiao Jiao is right. If another immortal weapon drops, you can have the first pick." The female player was overjoyed. She was so happy that she trembled. "Brother Qing is the best. He knows how to take care of me, unlike some people." Humph! The other players looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. They couldn't help it. Jiao Jiao was a woman and had a natural advantage. Moreover, she had an ambiguous relationship with the team leader. Someone saw her sneaking into the team leader's tent one night. The green-scaled python roared again and again under the attacks of the 8 players. Unfortunately, it couldn't exert its full strength due to the suppression of the formation. More and more wounds appeared on its body. The green-scaled python's aura was getting weaker and weaker. It looked like it couldn't hold on any longer. As for the 8 players, the corners of their mouths gradually revealed traces of smiles. They were about to kill this green-scaled python. They didn't know what it would drop. Even if it wasn't their turn to get immortal weapons, they would at least get a certain percentage of compensation. Yi Chen looked at it from the sky and prepared to leave. This kind of scene was everywhere in the chaos world. It wasn't worth his attention. At this time, Yi Chen's eyes narrowed. Yi Chen saw a dozen or so sneaky figures quickly approaching. These people were emitting a disgusting aura. Yi Chen immediately understood that these were the shifter race players. Obviously, these devil race players wanted to take advantage of the situation. After the devil race players observed from afar for a while, they suddenly said in a sinister voice, "Haha, our luck is really good today. I didn't expect to pick up a green-scaled python." The 8 players were startled and turned their heads away. They saw that these guys were surrounded by traces of devil chi. The leader of the group had short hair and 2 golden horns on his head. His physique was very strong. The 8 players' hearts sank. They didn't expect to be so unlucky today. They actually encountered devil race players here. The leader of the 8 players, Brother Qing, coughed and said loudly, "Friends, we are players from the Brotherhood Alliance. We have been besieging this cyan-scaled giant python for a long time. I hope you can change locations. I will treat you to a meal another day." Chapter 1456. The Loyalty Alliance was one of the more famous guilds among the players. They had over 100,000 members. Moreover, the players of the Loyalty Alliance were very united. The team leader's words were soft but firm, pointing out that they were from the Loyalty Alliance. He wanted to make these shifter players retreat. Unexpectedly, the shifter player coldly snorted and said impatiently, "What bullshit Loyalty Alliance? I've never heard of it. We're from the Sky Shifter Alliance. If you know what's good for you, scram. Otherwise, we'll kill you too." The female player, Jiao Jiao, immediately said angrily, "Why? This green python is ours. You think you're so great just because you have more people? How shameless!" As soon as Jiao Jiao spoke, the human players knew that they were in trouble. Sure enough, the shifter players coldly laughed. "Stinking bitch, you dare to insult us, brothers? Don't be polite. Kill them." After saying that, the shifter players immediately drew their weapons and roared. They charged at the human players from a commanding position. The 8 human players were immediately flustered. They had to suppress the green python while fending off the attacks of the shifter players. It was very difficult. You shifter bastards, don't go too far. Even if you're not afraid of our loyalty alliance, don't forget that we have God Yi Chun among us. Brother Qing's body was covered with wounds so deep that his bones could be seen. There was also a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He blocked the attacks in a sorry state while roaring. As for the shifter players, their eyes were filled with excitement. They disdainfully mocked, "Haha, Yi Chen is just a fart. He's just a bit lucky. If he dares to appear here, we'll skin him alive." That's right. Human players are a bunch of trash. If Yi Chen dares to come here, we'll show him our power. We'll show him how powerful we are. At this moment, the 8 human players were all injured. They were panting and had nowhere to run. Just as the players were feeling despair, a light flashed in front of them. A figure wearing a green robe appeared in front of them. This person was tall and had his back facing them, so they couldn't see his face clearly. At this moment, he was coldly saying to the dozen or so shifter players, "You guys are pretty arrogant, aren't you? Just now I heard you guys say that if Yi Chen were to come, you would eat him alive, right?" The devil race players looked at Yi Chen warily and asked, "Who are you?" "I advise you to mind your own business. We're from the Myriad Demon Alliance. You can't afford to offend us." Yi Chen sneered disdainfully, "A bunch of trash. I can't be bothered to waste my time with you." After saying that, Yi Chen stretched out a palm. Instantly, a huge palm formed from vital energy appeared in the sky and descended from the sky. These shifter players only had time to let out a single scream before their bodies were crushed to pieces, and they died on the spot. After they turned into a white light and disappeared, they left behind a dozen pieces of shining equipment. They were just some top-grade spiritual equipment. Yi Chen didn't even bother to look at them. He directly soared into the sky and disappeared. The players who had closed their eyes and waited for their deaths couldn't believe their eyes when they saw this scene. For a moment, no one picked up the spiritual equipment that fell on the ground. The female player asked doubtfully, "Brother Qing, who is that person? He's so strong. He killed those arrogant shifter players so easily." Brother Qing frowned as he looked in the direction Yi Chen left. Suddenly, he became spirited and said excitedly, "I know, he's God Yi Chen. I didn't expect God Yi Chen to save my life. I'm so happy, ha ha." The others were shocked and said in disbelief, "What? He's God Yi Chen? What a pity. If I knew, I would have asked him for an autograph." A player looked at the equipment reluctantly and said, "What are we going to do with these equipment? These were dropped by God Yi Chen." Brother Qing waved his hand indifferently and said, "Pick them up and distribute them. God Yi Chen wouldn't be interested in such trash equipment." Moreover, after the devil race players returned to the respawn point, they were all depressed to the extreme. They didn't dare to cause trouble for Yi Chen, so they vented their anger on the players from the Brotherhood Alliance. In the wilderness, players from the Brotherhood Alliance were killed by the devil race players. Facing the cries of the players in the guild master of the Brotherhood Alliance was furious. Now, there were people who dared to bully the Brotherhood Alliance. If he didn't stand up for justice, then the prestige of the Brotherhood Alliance would be gone. Therefore, 3 days later, the Brotherhood Alliance gathered 100,000 players and went to the Sky Shifter Alliance to demand an explanation. In the end, after the negotiations between the two sides failed, a huge war broke out. Like a fuse, the war between the two guilds gradually evolved into a war between the players of the human race and the shifter race. More and more players joined the fray, and the sounds of killing shook the heavens. Countless shifter and human race players disappeared. In the end, although both sides suffered heavy losses, the hatred between the players of the human race and the shifter race was engraved in their bones. Yi Chen, who was far away in the reincarnation dynasty, also heard of this matter. However, he didn't take it to heart. Instead, he revealed a cold smile. In his opinion, these players of the human race and the shifter race had nothing better to do. The great desolate world was vast and boundless. There were countless resources and opportunities. Now that the great Lich-Shifter war was getting closer and closer, instead of thinking of ways to raise their own strength and reap the benefits of the war between the two sides, they wanted to engage in internal strife. Of course, there were also people with ulterior motives who came to find Yi Chen. They wanted Yi Chen to personally take action on behalf of the human race and the shifter race. However, Yi Chen only laughed coldly. He didn't even want to meet such people. With his current status and identity, how could he participate in such a laughable matter? However, every time this happened, Yi Chen would remember that he was also a player. He had stayed in the great desolate world for so long that he had forgotten what the real world was like. Fortunately, he had the two-world stone that could allow him to travel between the two worlds. Regardless of whether it was himself or his subordinates, they could all return to the real world at any time. Then let's go to the real world to rest. After muttering to himself, Yi Chen disappeared from the dragon throne and went offline. When he opened his eyes again, he was back at home in Reincarnation City. He took a deep breath. The aura of the real world, although it didn't have the spiritual energy of the great desolate world, it was still the world he had lived in for many years. He still had some feelings for it. Chapter 1457. Yi Chen closed his eyes slightly and relaxed completely. After all, the pace of life in the real world was too slow. Yi Chen had just returned, and he even felt a little uncomfortable. At this moment, Yi Chen seemed to have noticed something. He waved his hand, and the Lava Dragon King, whose body had shrunk to the length of 2 chopsticks, appeared in the room. When the Lava Dragon King found himself in a strange environment, he twisted his body uncomfortably. He had noticed that there was not much spiritual qi in the air, which made him feel very aggrieved. However, when he saw Yi Chen sitting on the sofa with his eyes closed and pretending to take a nap, he immediately flew to Yi Chen's side in a flattering manner and asked softly with a flattering smile, "Master, where is this place? Is it a special space? If you need me to do anything, just tell me." Yi Chen did not even open his eyes. He just said indifferently, "This is the world I live in. Pay attention. Without my order, don't show your true form. Understand?" The Lava Dragon King was stunned at first, but then he quickly nodded. At the same time, he was a little confused. How could such a terrifying guy like his master be born in such a world with little spiritual qi? How did he cultivate all these years? It was really incredible. Seeing that Yi Chen was not in the mood to talk to him, the Lava Dragon King quietly floated to the window and looked down at the entire Reincarnation City, sinking into the Reincarnation City. Under the protection of Zhou Tsang, the entire Samsara city was impregnable. However, the concentration of spiritual qi here was much lower than that of the untainted world. This made the Lava Dragon King, who was used to living in the untainted world, very uncomfortable. The Lava Dragon King's consciousness left Reincarnation City. He saw that the other cities were filled with people. He had the urge to rush out and reveal his true form. Then, he would devour this weak human in one gulp. However, when he turned his head and saw Yi Chen sitting there, he quickly dismissed this unrealistic and dangerous idea. Unless he did not want to live anymore. He thought quietly in his mind, the humans here are really too weak. They are as weak as ants. Could it be that Master was like them in the beginning? But the current Master is so powerful, he's simply a freak. Yi Chen's huge spiritual strength covered the entire Samsara city. Soon, he found Zhou Tsang, who was patrolling with his team. After thinking about it, he contacted Zhou Tsang and asked him to come here. When Yi Chen's voice suddenly sounded in Zhou Tsang's mind, he almost thought that he heard it wrong. Then, he came to Yi Chen's room with great surprise. Zhou Tsang knelt on one knee and said loudly, "Your Majesty, I am Zhou Tsang. I did not know that you were coming back. Please forgive me for being late." Yi Chen waved his hand and Zhou Tsang involuntarily stood up. Yi Chen said with a smile, "General Zhou Tsang, you have been working hard recently. I came back because I was suddenly interested. What's wrong with that? Did anything happen in Samsara City during this time?" Zhou Tsang patted his chest and said in a thunderous voice, "Your Majesty, everything in Samsara City has been normal during this time. With Your Majesty's prestige, no one dares to have any ideas about Samsara City. They don't even have the courage to come close to Samsara City. Samsara City can be regarded as the most secure city on this planet." "That's good. How are the other places?" Zhou Tsang frowned and thought for a moment, then said, "The other places are not good. Especially recently, they have developed the war in the game into the real world. The demon clan has been constantly attacking human cities, and the conflicts are getting more and more intense. Some of the demon clan have even taken over human cities. Many people have died. It's a mess." Yi Chen frowned when he heard this. He did not expect the war between humans and demon clan to start again. Moreover, it had developed to the point where the demon clan had taken over human cities. But then he shook his head. Who cares? All of this had nothing to do with him. He waved his hand and dismissed Zhou Tsang. He decided to enjoy this rare holiday. He waved his hand and summoned Xiaolongnu out of the small world. Ever since the war between the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, and the Kirin Clan, Yi Chen brought Xiaolongnu into the small world. Because the time ratio in the small world and the real world was too different, Xiaolongnu's cultivation had also risen with the endless supply of top-grade immortal stones. Now, Xiaolongnu's cultivation had reached the peak of the Sky Immortal Realm. She was only one step away from breaking through to the Golden Immortal Realm. When she saw Yi Chen, Xiaolongnu was very surprised. She laughed and threw herself into Yi Chen's arms. Although Yi Chen felt that he had not seen Xiaolongnu for only a few months, to Xiaolongnu, it had been thousands of years. So Xiaolongnu was in a daze and did not notice the environment. She immediately rolled around with Yi Chen passionately. After the clouds and rain stopped, Xiaolongnu was sweating profusely and lying on Yi Chen's chest. She drew circles on his chest and said, "Husband, you don't know how much I've missed you all these years." Yi Chen hugged Xiaolongnu's delicate body with satisfaction and revealed a trace of a smile. He then said, "When your cultivation is high enough, you won't need to go to the small world to cultivate anymore." Xiaolongnu propped herself up on Yi Chen's chest and waved her little fist proudly. "Husband, I'm very powerful. I'm now at the peak of the Sky Immortal Realm, only one step away from the Golden Immortal Realm. Am I powerful?" She then looked at Yi Chen and sighed. "No matter how powerful I am, I'm not as powerful as you. I feel that my cultivation is too far away from yours." Yi Chen laughed and said, "Don't be unhappy, your cultivation is already very good. I called you out this time to let you have a good rest. Don't cultivate until your brain is damaged." Xiaolongnu immediately smiled sweetly and leaned on Yi Chen's chest. She rubbed his chin like a kitten and said, "Husband is still the best. By the way, where is this place? Why do I feel like I've never been here before?" Now, Xiaolongnu finally noticed that the environment was a bit strange. Yi Chen smiled and carried Xiaolongnu to the window. He pulled open the curtains and pointed to the outside world. "This is the world I used to live in. It is also the place where I was born and grew up." After hearing this, Xiaolongnu's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. She looked at the world outside the window with curiosity and longing. Everything she saw was incomparably new to her. Chapter 1458. Yi Chen patted Xiaolongnu's soft and smooth waist, then smiled at her and said, "Go get dressed. I'll take you out for a walk." In our world, although the spiritual energy in the air is the worst, there are many things that you can't see in the chaos world. Xiaolongnu immediately cheered. Her delicate body swayed slightly, and a light green silk dress appeared on her body. Then Yi Chen brought Xiaolongnu out. Naturally, there was nothing to see in Samsara City. Yi Chen brought Xiaolongnu, seemingly strolling leisurely, but in reality they were extremely fast. Soon, they arrived at the surrounding player cities. There was a lot of traffic in these cities, and they were quite prosperous. Xiaolongnu's pair of beautiful eyes were simply overwhelmed. Everything that she saw was a little dazzling. However, since the great catastrophe, the world had also changed. It had become more ancient. Of course, the existence of thousands of years of civilization allowed people to quickly adapt to the current rhythm. For example, there were now artificial feeding of the Heaven's Bane, made of silk woven from the silk of the Heaven's Bane. Clothes were not only luxurious but also comfortable. Xiaolongnu had never seen such a variety of exquisite and gorgeous clothes. This girl bought more than 10 sets in one go. After Xiaolongnu changed into a new set of clothes, she was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. She was so bright and beautiful that Xiaolongnu cheered happily. Her beautiful big eyes curved as she smiled. Next, Xiaolongnu discovered some new delicacies. Those were the skewers of demon beasts that the players had hunted in the wild and cooked into spiritual porridge. Not only were these delicacies delicious, but they could also strengthen the body and beautify the skin. Xiaolongnu held a skewer of roasted saber-toothed tiger's kidney in her left hand, and a flamingo's phoenix claw in her right hand. The corners of her rosy and delicate mouth were glued together like a kitten. Yi Chen's mood inexplicably improved. It seemed that if he was not busy in the future, he would take turns to bring those women to the real world to relax and relax. It was a good idea. However, Yi Chen still sighed with emotion. He didn't know when the world would return to the state before the catastrophe. If there was electricity now, the world would be 100 times more wonderful. Yi Chen noticed that when the sky was about to darken, the number of people on the streets had decreased significantly. The stalls had all packed up and gone home, and the shops had also begun to close. After asking, he found out that the city had not been very peaceful recently. The demon race would sometimes enter the city at night to kill people. Many people had already been killed. Yi Chen shook his head and took Xiaolongnu back to Samsara City. At this moment, in a small alley in a city hundreds of kilometers away from Samsara City, a young man covered in blood was fleeing in a sorry state. At this moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. With a puff, a sharp knife covered in blood pierced through the back of the young man. The young man spat out a mouthful of blood in despair, and fell to the ground, dead. At this moment, a figure gradually emerged from the shadows. It was a man with gloomy eyes. However, behind him was a long, wolf-like tail. At this moment, 2 more burly demon race men descended from the sky with the sound of wind. Looking at the corpse on the ground, one of the men shook his head and said, "One-eyed wolf, you're too fast. We wanted to help, but you took care of it all by yourself." He's just a piece of trash." At this moment, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from the entrance of the alley. A dozen young men appeared there. "Xiaobei, what happened to you, Xiaobei?" One of them, a tall, short-haired young man, saw the bloodied man lying on the ground. He rushed over and picked up the corpse. Then, he glared at the 3 demon race players with bloodshot eyes and roared, "You bastards of the demon race, how dare you sneak into the city and kill my brother? I'll make you pay with your blood." Then, the dozen young men took out their weapons and surrounded the 3 demon racemen. They began to attack them like a storm. Although the 3 demon racemen were very strong, they were outnumbered. Soon, they were all bloodied. 2 of the demon race players were hacked to death on the spot. Before one of the demon race players died, he suddenly took out a metal ball from his pocket. Then, with a whoosh, a blood-red light shot into the sky. With a loud bang, it exploded. It formed a huge, blood-red, torch-shaped firework in the sky. This torch-shaped firework lasted for a minute before dissipating. It could be seen clearly from tens of miles away. After the short-haired man killed the last demon raceman, he raised his head and panted. He looked at the slowly dissipating firework in the sky with a worried expression. He said worriedly, "Damn it," he sent out the demon race's distress signal. "Tell the boss to step up the patrols and increase the defense. Don't let these bastards break into our city." Another girl in a red leather jacket said tiredly, "I don't know if we can survive this. I heard that some cities in the north have already been conquered by the demon race." The short-haired man shook his head and gritted his teeth. "We have to. This is our last home. Let's unite with the other humans. We have to fight back." At this time, someone said in a low voice, "I have a good idea. Yi Chun is the great god. The demon race won't dare to provoke him. Why don't we go to Samsara City and ask the great god Yi Chun for help?" His suggestion was approved by the others. They all nodded and agreed that it was a good idea. Only the short-haired man shook his head firmly and said, "No way. I'm sure you know the great god Yi Chen's temper. He hates trouble. If we lure the demon race players over, the great god Yi Chen will be furious. Speaking of which, the great god Yi Chen is also the leader of the humans. If he helps, the demon race won't be so arrogant." Another person said helplessly, "What can we do? Great god Yi Chen's whereabouts are elusive. Unless one is willing, otherwise, who can influence his opinion?" The short-haired man picked up his brother's corpse and said firmly, "Let's not talk about these useless things. The demon race's army will be here soon. Let's go." With that, the group disappeared into the alley with a few leaps. About half an hour later, more and more demon race players appeared from all directions. Although they had cultivated into human form, they still retained some of the demon race's characteristics. Some grew tails, some grew horns, and some were even covered with a layer of black fur. At this time, the demon race players appeared below the city. Pairs of green eyes glinted coldly as they stared at the city in front of them. Chapter 1459. Torches were lit on top of the tall city walls, illuminating the surroundings as if it was daytime. The city walls were filled with human race warriors. All of them gripped their weapons tightly and stared at the goblins below the city walls. A black-haired, muscular man from the demon race walked over and said in a low, muffled voice, "The signal was sent from this city. I think they've been killed by these people." A black-clothed man covered in a black robe, revealing only a pair of long and narrow green eyes, coldly said, "I heard that tonight One-Eyed Wolf and the others are going to sneak into this city to have fun. I reckon they are the ones who will die. These human race players are really arrogant. They actually killed 3 of our brothers in broad daylight. It seems like they are not afraid. Brothers, start attacking the city immediately. After the city is breached, kill every human race player you see. Kill them until they are afraid. Kill them until they surrender." Suddenly, the goblin race players revealed excited and bloodthirsty expressions. Now, every one of them was incomparably powerful. They could finally turn the tables and trample on the original owners of this planet, the humans. This feeling of enjoying killing to their heart's content was really addictive. These goblins were sturdy and agile. They climbed the city walls as if they were walking on flat ground. However, the gamers were prepared. As soon as the order was given, a raging inferno ignited beneath the city walls. Sharp arrows whistled through the air as they descended from the sky, covering a large area. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen demons were riddled with holes by the arrows. However, even more goblins began to attack the city. Fortunately, the humans in this city were more prepared. Under the barrage of arrows, the goblins were finally beaten back. After leaving behind hundreds of corpses, the goblins finally retreated unwillingly. The surviving players on the city walls fell to the ground one by one. They stared at the sky with their eyes wide open. They did not know how long this hair-raising day would last. The next day, Yi Chen accompanied Xiao Longnu to a new city. The residents of this city were in a hurry. Everyone seemed to be afraid of something. Yi Chen frowned and thought for a moment. He understood that this was caused by the demon clan's rampage. These ordinary people were the most dangerous among them. Yi Chen brought Xiao Longnu to a pedestrian street. There were a lot of fun places here. At one end of the pedestrian street, Lilidragon was watching a bone sculpture perform and couldn't move her feet. These bones were taken from the hardest bones of demonic beasts and were carved into various small pieces. Those lifelike bone carvings simply amazed Xiao Longnu. "Uncle, can you carve one for me?" The old man who made the bone carvings smiled and said, "Of course you can. Miss, you are really beautiful. I will carve according to your appearance." Then, the old man began to carve skillfully. The carving knife in his hand spun nimbly like a work of the god. The short animal bone seemed to have a life of its own as it constantly changed its shape. Soon, a lifelike bone carving was completed. It had a strange vibe and was 70% similar to Xiao Longnu. Xiao Longnu was overjoyed as she received it. She liked it very much and repeatedly thanked the old man. Yi Chen smiled and handed the old man a low-grade immortal stone. The old man said with difficulty, "Young man, you gave me such a big one. I don't have change." Yi Chen pulled Xiao Longnu and turned to leave. He turned to the old man and said, "Uncle, you don't have to change. Your craftsmanship is worth this price." Yi Chen and Xiao Longnu walked around the pedestrian street. Then, they left the city and went for a walk by a lake outside the city. The green grass here was like a cushion and the lake water was clear. The environment was very beautiful. Xiao Longnu snuggled in Yi Chen's arms and enjoyed a rare moment of contentment. At this moment, suddenly, a group of people with strange auras appeared in front of them. These people were dressed in strange clothes, exuding a ferocious aura. More or less, they carried some characteristics of the demon clan. Yi Chen frowned. So, it was just some demon clan. He didn't expect to meet them here. How unlucky. Yi Chen didn't want to bother with them. In his opinion, the conflict between the human clan and the demon clan had nothing to do with him. However, Yi Chen didn't take the initiative to look for trouble. It didn't mean that others wouldn't. "Haha, I worked hard last night and still couldn't take down that damned city. I'm starving. These two delicate guys look good. I can use them to fill my stomach." Following a series of savage laughter, these burly Yao clan men greedily sized up Yi Chen and Xiao Longnu. Saliva kept dripping from the corners of their mouth. They looked extremely disgusting. Xiao Longnu immediately frowned in disgust. She hid behind Yi Chen and whispered, "Husband, these demon clan men are so disgusting. Can I kill them?" Yi Chen coldly snorted and said, "You don't have to do it. They want to eat me? They still lack a good set of teeth. Kid, what the F***ck are you talking about? Come over here and let me eat you. That way, you won't have to suffer so much." Yi Chen's eyes were filled with anger. "What can you do if I don't come over? Haha, what do you think? I have a lot of tricks. I'll eat your limbs first, then your organs. I'll let you watch me eat your organs and you won't be able to take it." Then, all of them surrounded Yi Chen and Xiao Longnu with ferocious gazes. Yi Chen suddenly snorted. Suddenly, the demon clan men froze. Immediately after, a terrifying cold aura froze them into transparent sculptures one after another. Yi Chen ignored them and left with Xiao Longnu. After they walked a few hundred meters, they heard the sound of something breaking. The demon clan men were like broken porcelain. They broke into thousands of pieces. A thick smell of blood spread. After Yi Chen left, several carp demons quietly popped their heads out of the water. The demon clan's information was transmitted very quickly. After Yi Chen killed the demon clanmen, he continued to play in the nearby wilderness with Xiao Longnu as if nothing had happened. When they left the forest, they found that more than 100,000 demon clanmen had gathered outside. When they saw Yi Chen and the others coming out, they immediately rushed forward and besieged them. Yi Chen was finally angry. He waved his hand and the Lava Dragon King immediately rushed out. Its body, which was the size of 2 chopsticks, suddenly opened its mouth that was tens of thousands of times larger. The Lava Dragon King swallowed all the demon clanmen in one gulp. Yi Chen coldly snorted. These demon clanmen are lawless. Even death can't wipe out their crimes. It's time to teach them a lesson. After returning to Samsara City, Yi Chen immediately ordered Dian Wei to take 1 million soldiers of the Samsara Legion back to the real world. He was going to start a massacre. Chapter 1460. Rumble, Rumble. Following the orderly footsteps, teams of elite Samsara Legion soldiers appeared in Samsara City in the real world. After receiving Yi Chen's order, Dian Wei personally led 1 million Samsara Legion soldiers to the real world. Dian Wei greets your majesty. Yi Chen sat boldly in the governor's mansion of Samsara City. His back was straight like a divine spear piercing through the heavens. Dian Wei, I order you to lead the Samsara Legion soldiers to wipe out all the demons around Samsara City. Don't take prisoners. Don't leave anyone alive. Don't accept surrender. Kill them all. Yes, your majesty. Dian Wei's body trembled, and a terrifying murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The Samsara Legion soldiers that Dian Wei brought with him were all the best of the best. All the Samsara Legion soldiers were above the fairy immortal level, and they were equipped with immortal equipment set. Every soldier was a veteran of hundreds of battles and had killed countless people. After Yi Chen's order was given, an iron-blooded and murderous aura began to fill the air. When the whole real world knew about Yi Chen's order, it was extremely shocking and caused a violent commotion. The humans were cheering and jumping for joy. Yi Chen has finally made his move. Those damned demons, someone is finally going to take care of them. It should have been like this long ago. These demons are too abominable. We can't go home because of them. The demons also received the news, and they were also panicking. They had heard of Yi Chen's reputation in the Eldritch world, but they still had a glimmer of hope. What are you panicking for? How many people can Yi Chen's Samsara Legion be? We have many mutants. We can drown them with just a spit of saliva. That's right. As long as we unite, the demons will take over the whole world. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was cruel. Iron hooves thundered as the Samsara Legion finally set out. In the eyes of the Samsara Legion, the resistance of the demon race was simply a joke. They were too weak. In the untainted world, the Samsara Legion had participated in the war between the Dragon Group and the Phoenix Clan. Which warrior was not a veteran? To them, the demons in the real world were far inferior to the natives of the wild world, not to mention that they had a huge advantage in terms of equipment. Before the Samsara Legion arrived, the demons had already occupied hundreds of cities in the human world. Dian Wei only used 3 days to reclaim all of these cities. Wherever he passed, blood flowed like a river and corpses littered the ground. The demon corpses almost filled the moat outside the city. The demonic beasts were finally enraged. They united an army of tens of millions to wage an earth-shattering war against the Samsara Legion on the Mabe Plains. This battle gathered all the experts of the demon race. They gritted their teeth and wanted to take advantage of this battle to turn the tables. Yi Chen, on the other hand, personally went to the battlefield to watch the battle. The setting sun was like blood, and the cold wind was like a knife. The demon race and the Samsara Legion were separated by hundreds of feet. They could almost see the hot air from each other's nostrils. At this moment, a golden immortal realm expert walked out from the demon race. He had a majestic body and strong muscles. He had short silver hair, but his body was covered with fragmented golden scales. My name is Yao Ruoxian. Our demon clan and your reincarnation city have always minded our own business. We, the demon clan, have always admired great god Yi Chen. Why are you trying to kill us all this time? I want to speak to your majesty, Yi Chen. Dian Wei spat on the ground, shook his huge head, and said with a cold smile, "Who the hell do you think you are to speak to our majesty? Don't you want a reason? I can give it to you because all the demon race deserve to die. Isn't that reason enough?" Yao Ruoxian's pupils suddenly shrank into a vertical line, emitting a blood-red light. He said fiercely, "Then you think you can defeat us, right? We demon race are not to be trifled with. If that's the case, then let's fight to the death." After he finished speaking, Yao Ruoxian roared crazily. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a silver-scaled serpent that was more than 100 feet long. He led the tens of millions of demon race and rushed towards the Samsara Legion. Compared to them, the Samsara Legion only had 1,000,000 people. They seemed to be much weaker. However, all the warriors of the Samsara Legion had a cold expression on their faces. There was not the slightest ripple in their eyes. They were used to this kind of situation. Dian Wei sneered and looked up at the void. Yi Chen was standing there with his hands behind his back. He snorted coldly and waved his hand lightly. Instantly, a strong gust of wind rose from the ground. The gust of wind swept up the yellow sand and swept it towards the demon race army. This gust of wind came too suddenly, and the wind speed was also very fast. Many of the demon race warriors were blown away, and some of them were blinded by the sand. The formation was immediately disrupted. However, this was only the beginning. Yi Chen flicked his finger again. The sky that was already filled with dark clouds immediately turned into a heavy downpour. Strangely enough, these clouds covered the area where the demon race army was, but the Samsara Legion, which was several hundred feet away from them, was not affected at all. In just a breath's time, these demon race warriors were drenched by the heavy downpour. In the next moment, the gust of wind brought with it a chilling temperature. The gust of wind caused the surrounding temperature to drop by tens of degrees. It could be said that a drop of water would turn into ice. The ground that was soaked by the rain immediately became slippery. One by one, the demon race warriors lost their balance and fell painfully onto the ice. Their wet armor was frozen into a ball. Many of the demon race warriors were directly frozen into popsicles. After doing all this, Yi Chen did not continue to look at the results. He turned around and returned to Samsara City. Since he had already done this, Dian Wei would be able to take control of the situation soon. Sure enough, Dian Wei laughed wildly. He raised his weapon and waved it forward. He roared with all his might, "Brothers, it doesn't matter how many of these weaklings there are. Let's kill them all." Whoosh, whoosh. The warriors of the Samsara Legion drew their bows and arrows. Millions of sharp crossbow bolts fell from the sky like a storm. They stabbed fiercely into the ground. Countless demon race warriors were pierced by the sharp blades just like that. After 3 rounds of arrow rain, there were less than 3,000,000 demon race warriors who could still stand. A series of devastating attacks had already made these demon race warriors desperate. They did not have the courage to continue fighting Dian Wei's Samsara Legion to the death. Many demon race warriors had already turned around and fled. Chapter 1461. Unfortunately, even if they wanted to run, they could not outrun the well-equipped Samsara Legion. After these merciless Samsara Legion soldiers caught up to him, they expressionlessly cut off his head. An hour later, the battle was over. Tens of millions of demons were killed, and the smell of blood filled the air. Even the birds did not dare to come close to this area. Dian Wei wiped the blood off his face and sneered in his heart. These demons dared to fight the Samsara Legion head-on. They really did not know how to spell the word death. After killing all the demons, Dian Wei set off again with the Samsara Legion. He did not worry about cleaning up the battlefield at all, because the Lava Dragon King had been waiting for him for a long time. Yi Chen had left him here just in case. Unexpectedly, he did not need to show up. After the Samsara Legion left, the Lava Dragon King returned to his original form. He opened his mouth and sucked countless demons into his bottomless pit. It was inevitable that some demons who were good at camouflage would lie in the piles of corpses and pretend to be dead. But now it was too late for them to escape. They were all swallowed by the Lava Dragon King. In just a moment, the tens of millions of corpses of the demon soldiers were swallowed by the Lava Dragon King. The Lava Dragon King burped with satisfaction and shook his head regretfully. The demons here are not as delicious as those in the untainted world, but there are enough of them. Not bad. After that, he shook his head and wagged his tail and flew up again to catch up with Dian Wei's army. All the cities that had been conquered by Dian Wei had already raised the flag of the Samsara dynasty. After a week, all the cities in the country had raised the flag of the Samsara dynasty. The demons who were originally in the country had all fled with their tails between their legs. It was too dangerous for them to stay in the country. Once they were discovered by the Samsara Legion, they would die. Compared to the domestic population, there were more demons overseas. After all, during the cataclysm, most of the humans overseas had died. The few who survived could not cause much of a stir. With Yi Chen's consent, the Samsara Legion set off again. The iron hooves of the Samsara Legion trampled on every corner of the world and recovered all the human cities. Those demon masters with higher cultivation were dealt with by the Lava Dragon King. The Golden Immortals and even the Daluo Jinxian demons were nothing in front of the Lava Dragon King. They were just swallowed by the Lava Dragon King. After all the leaders and experts of the fiend race were slaughtered, the fiend race of the entire planet panicked and became a pile of loose sand. In the face of the counterattack of the humans, they fled with their tails between their legs. They hid in the deep mountains and forests in the real world and were too scared to show their faces again. Yi Chen sat in the Samsara city steadily. It took less than half a month for the Samsara Legion to completely wipe out the demons on the planet. In this half a month, hundreds of millions of demons were killed. Yi Chen did not stay idle. He took out countless materials to expand the Samsara city. Now, the Samsara city was almost the same size as the Samsara city in the untainted world. At this time, Yi Chen received a message from Dian Wei. The Samsara Legion had conquered all the cities in the world. No more demons dared to appear in human territory. They had all hidden in the deep mountains and forests. Yi Chen nodded with satisfaction. Finally, the world was peaceful. Those demons who had been driven away would definitely not dare to come back in a short time. As for the rest, they could not cause any trouble. Yi Chen deeply understood the principle of living in sorrow and death in peace. It was good to keep these demons as a reminder to the humans. Moreover, these demons were the best targets for practice. They were left for the humans to slowly encircle and hunt down. At this time, Yi Chen suddenly looked up at the sky. Then he closed his eyes as if he had sensed something. Just like this, Yi Chen stood in the same place. After half an hour, he suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes shone brightly. Yi Chen slowly floated above the Samsara city and issued a decree like thunder. I declare that from today onwards, all the humans on Earth are under the jurisdiction of the Samsara dynasty. Anyone who disobeys will be regarded as a traitor. Yi Chen's voice was like rolling thunder, rolling in all directions. It quickly passed through mountains and seas. For a moment, all the humans, no matter which country they were in, looked up at the sky at the same time. At this moment, they all heard Yi Chen's decree. Everyone was stunned. What's going on? Did Yi Chen just say that they are all under the jurisdiction of the Samsara dynasty? Most of the humans cheered. After all, it was the warriors of the Samsara dynasty who saved them from the abyss of suffering and the claws of the demon tribe. Haha, that's great. Master Yi Chen has finally stood up. After Master Yi Chen unifies the earth, I'll see who dares to bully us? That's right. When I go out in the future, I dare to say that I'm a member of the Samsara dynasty. Like rootless duckweed that suddenly found a support, the Samsara dynasty was undoubtedly powerful. If they belonged to such a powerful dynasty, there would be no harm in it. But after all, people's hearts were complicated. Not everyone was willing to do so. Bah, why does Yichun have the right to show off in the game? Why does he want to control us in the real world? I'm not convinced. Haha, I think this guy has forgotten his surname after he gained some power. The Earth is so big. If I don't care about him, he can't kill me. There are at least billions of humans on the Earth. Why should we all submit to him? Why don't we do something? I know a few rich businessmen on the North Street. Why don't we do something? In an instant, a few tall, ferocious-looking young men with ferocious eyes laughed. Then, they took some black cloth and covered their faces. Then, they grabbed their weapons and rushed out into the street. This group of people usually showed off their power and did evil. They bullied the weak and feared the strong. When the nearby residents saw this group of people rushing out, they were frightened and scattered. Seeing the frightened look of these people, this group of ruffians became more arrogant. What do you want to do? I advise you not to act recklessly. Seeing these ruffians who broke the door and rushed in with weapons, the owner of the business trembled with fear. Master Yichun just said that we are now under the jurisdiction of the Samsara dynasty. Aren't you afraid of being punished for acting recklessly? Chapter 1462. The leader spat out a mouthful of saliva, raised the sword in his hand high, and said in a cold voice, "Old thing, where did all this nonsense come from? Heaven is high and the Emperor is far away. No matter how capable Yichun is, he can't control me. Cut the crap and take out all your valuables. Otherwise, don't blame me for stabbing you with my saber." The boss shivered. He had no choice but to take out all his valuables with a long face. No matter how important property was, it was not as important as his life. Seeing that the boss had admitted defeat, these people laughed even more arrogantly. They casually pulled out a piece of cloth and wrapped all their valuables. Then they carried them on their shoulders and swaggered out of the shop. What? As soon as they walked out, they were all stunned. In front of them stood 3 fully armed soldiers. Only 2 of their eyes were exposed. They were wearing the standard armor of the Samsara dynasty. The leader said coldly, "We have received a report from the public that you are making trouble and robbing merchants. Surrender now, or we will kill you without mercy." Seeing these soldiers of the Samsara dynasty, these villains were obviously shocked and looked at their leader subconsciously. The fat on the leader's face trembled violently. He suppressed the fear in his heart and sneered, "Who do you think you are? You want to challenge us with just 3 people? Brothers, kill them all and rob this city." The 3 soldiers stopped talking nonsense. A cold light flashed in their eyes at the same time, and they said coldly and ruthlessly, "Stubborn. Kill." Then, 3 vigorous figures rushed over from 3 different directions. An extremely cold light shot out. After a few screams, the dozen or so murderers covered their necks and slowly knelt on the ground. Their blood sprayed out as if it was free. A second ago, these villains were swaggering. In the blink of an eye, they were all dead. The 3 soldiers of the Samsara Legion, with cruel and cold-killing intent, put their sabers back into their sheaths without blinking. Their figures flashed, and they disappeared from the place in an instant. Only then did the surrounding merchants poke their heads out of their shop. When they saw the corpse, they all shuddered. However, their faces were filled with joy and joy. Even death cannot wipe out their crimes. These villains should have died long ago. Finally, someone has decided for us. This is great. Such situations happened occasionally all over the world at the same time, but they were all suppressed by the warriors of the Samsara Legion in an instant. The Samsara Legion had always been incomparably ruthless and efficient in their work. They did not hesitate in the slightest. All the criminals who stirred up trouble and disrupted the social order were all executed without exception. Don't let those fellows who thought they were lucky finally wake up. Only now did they realize that the Samsara army's sharp saber lights were not only aimed at the demonic beasts, but also at anything that affected the rule of the Samsara dynasty. All of a sudden, all the people in the world pledged their allegiance to the Samsara dynasty. There were no more dissenting voices. Of course, Yi Chen, with his enormous background, knew everything that happened in the outside world. A cold smile appeared on his face. From now on, the entire planet was under his control. At this moment, countless auspicious clouds suddenly descended from the sky of the entire planet in the real world. Accompanied by the pleasant sound of heavenly music, countless golden vines seemed to grow out of the void. On these vines, colorful flowers bloomed one after another. The auspicious golden aura spread in all directions. Many weak and sickly humans were swept by these rays of light and immediately became lively and energetic. Some patients who had been bedridden for many years also felt that their bodies were filled with energy in an instant. They somersaulted on the spot and completely recovered from their illness. At this moment, a sudden clap of thunder sounded in the sky. Everyone heard a loud and clear voice in their ears. At the same time, this voice also sounded in the World Channel. Congratulations to player Yi Chen for successfully unifying the entire real world. Your personal title has been upgraded from Son of the Earth to Lord of the Earth. Your reward has been increased by 10 times. It has been upgraded to the sacred city of Samsara. Your fate has been increased by 2 times. The fate of the Samsara dynasty has been increased by 2 times. The cultivation speed of all citizens has been increased by 2 times. Player Yi Chen is the first player to unify the entire real world. He is specially rewarded with 500,000 top-grade attribute points and 1 billion top-grade immortal stones. Congratulations to player Yi Chen. This system announcement was played 3 times in a row in the World Channel. It caused a great uproar. Everyone was shocked. This was different from the past when Yi Chen conquered a certain city, killed a certain expert, or won the favor of a certain beauty. This time, he had unified the entire Earth and left the entire real world. Oh my God, I'm not dreaming, right? How did such a big thing happen after I didn't go offline for a while? Has the entire real world been unified by God Yi Chen? That's a system announcement. How can it be fake? I really didn't expect that Master Yi Chen is so low-key. He has such great strength, but he has been staying in the Samsara city. I didn't expect him to make such an earth-shattering move. Haha, I think this is a good thing. Now that the real world has been unified, aren't we all members of the Samsara dynasty? No, you're dreaming. Now we just belong to the Samsara dynasty in the real world. I don't think it's that easy to join the Samsara dynasty. I don't know what conditions we have to meet. No matter what conditions we have to meet, we have to join. Don't forget that as long as we join the Samsara dynasty, our cultivation speed will be increased by 2 times. Some were happy and some were sad. Most players were very happy that Jiang Bufan had unified the entire real world. They were even excited. However, for some ambitious people, this was not a good thing. At this time, in a luxurious private room of a restaurant, an imposing middle-aged man was sitting there. Beside him were some powerful experts. Obviously, this middle-aged man was the leader. After hearing the system announcement, everyone was stunned. The middle-aged man could not help but crush the wine glass in his hand. Damn it, we have just gained a foothold in the Eldritch world. We have just conquered a base. We haven't even started our grand plans. How could the real world be robbed? Chapter 1463. The others were also crestfallen. They said helplessly, "Boss, we have no choice. If it were someone else, we might be able to do it. But this is Yi Chen. Even if we use all our strength, we can't do anything to him. Until now, there is no good way. The real world is in the hands of Yi Chen. If we annoy him, he will destroy our bodies in the real world. Then everything will be gone. Yi Chen was a little emotional. He didn't expect that a single decision would unify the real world. But it was also good for him. He floated above the Samsara city and spread his powerful mind sense in all directions. The Samsara city had expanded tenfold and became the sacred city of Samsara. The original Samsara city had become the city governor's mansion. In this way, the Samsara city became more magnificent. Since the real world was unified, it was time to make a unified rule. He immediately notified Chen Gong, Guojia, and the others of the Samsara dynasty and ordered them to make a new set of rules. The new rules would be implemented in the real world. Only those who followed the new rules and made contributions were qualified to become citizens of the Samsara dynasty. Under the cover of the powerful mind sense, the scene of half of the planet appeared in Yi Chen's mind. Looking at the candles in the big cities, Yi Chen was a little absent-minded. He missed the days before the catastrophe. At that time there were electricity, movies, and music. It was a real heaven on earth. Suddenly Yi Chen had an idea. He wanted to find a way to restore the life before the catastrophe. But now that the rules of heaven and earth had changed, it would be very difficult to achieve it again. There was nothing in the world that was difficult for those who set their minds to it. Moreover, he had a feeling that if he could do this, it would bring him great benefit. Since he thought of it, he should do it. The great Tao of the world was the same. There must be a way to restore the glory of the past. After Yi Chen returned to the sacred city of Samsara, he began to study this matter. Originally, he wanted to ask the refiners of the small worlds to help, but after thinking about it, he decided to do it himself. Yi Chen had studied countless ancient books, innumerable array formation materials, and innumerable refining knowledge. With his current spiritual sense and spiritual force, he could read thousands of books in an instant and firmly memorize them in his mind. 3 days later, Yi Chen finally started to take action. He already had a general idea in his mind. That was to use some spirit stones or immortal stones to replace the previous electricity or heat, and use array disks to replace all kinds of complicated kinetic energy. After several failures, Yi Chen realized that his idea was indeed effective. The most direct was in the sky above the Samsara city. Tens of thousands of bright street lamps had already emitted bright light, illuminating the entire Samsara city, as if it was daytime. What Yi Chen did was just a small array disk and a piece of low-grade spirit stone. According to Yi Chen's estimation, the energy provided by this piece of low-grade spirit stone could supply the entire Samsara city's street lamps for a month. If it was replaced by a piece of low-grade immortal stone, it would be enough to last for 10 years. Haha, it's really good. Yi Chen was very satisfied as he strolled in the Samsara city. The idea in his mind became clearer. Since he could do this, then the next step was to start to study more advanced things. A few days later, finished products were born from Yi Chen's hands. A tape recorder that played beautiful music, a car that could be powered by energy, and so on. Yi Chen quickly spread the technology he had mastered to the entire world for free. Yi Chen's invention simply shocked the whole world. All human beings cheered and jumped for joy. Almost overnight, all human cities were lit up again. Along with the pleasant music, every household was filled with laughter and chatter. Some people were so excited that their eyes were brimming with tears. I didn't expect that I would be able to hear the music of the past again in my lifetime. Yes, it's all thanks to Yi Chen. Some masters of the human clan set off in their modified medium-sized vehicles powered by spirit stones. They took the initiative to leave the city and go to the wilderness outside the city to hunt the demon clan. After the whole world was restored to civilization, Yi Chen suddenly felt a wisp of merit descending from the void. At this time, the rules of the Samsara dynasty in the real world had been redrawn by the successful countries. Yi Chen sat in the governor's mansion of the Samsara city. With a wave of his pen, a golden imperial edict appeared in the void. After Yi Chen finished writing, the golden edict even flew up into the sky. At the same time, a vast voice sounded in the minds of all the residents in the whole world. His Majesty's edict says, His Majesty Yi Chen, the Emperor of the Samsara dynasty, feels that the human beings on the earth are living in misery. He specially orders the Samsara dynasty to unify the whole planet. Now you are all under the orders of the Samsara dynasty. Every country has its laws and every family has its rules. Those who violate the rules of the Samsara dynasty will be severely punished. Those who kill their own kind will be killed. Those who betray their own kind will be killed. Those who secretly communicate with the demon clan will be killed. Those who spread rumors will be killed. Those who disobey the military order will be killed. The Samsara dynasty will establish a merit list. Those who have made contributions to the Samsara dynasty will be able to enter the Samsara holy city and become an official resident of the Samsara dynasty after accumulating enough merit. They will enjoy the double benefits of cultivation in the Samsara dynasty and the protection of the Samsara Legion. Of course, they could only enter the Samsara holy city. The core imperial city was not open to the public. Moreover, if they had accumulated enough merit, they could enter the Samsara holy city. No matter which city gate it was, there was a long path of tempering the mind. On the path of tempering the mind, no matter what kind of cultivation one had, no matter what purpose one had, one's nature would be revealed. If one was a spy of other forces or had evil intentions against the Samsara dynasty, he would be burned to ashes immediately on the path of tempering the mind. In this way, the entire Samsara holy city would be impregnable. As the orders were issued from the Samsara holy city, all the human beings on the earth knew about it. Meanwhile, the officials of the Samsara dynasty had been in charge of all the cities to collect all the information about the human beings, including the information about the untainted world. Yi Chen also sent a security organization to be stationed in all the major cities. Peace was finally restored on Earth. The demon race could no longer cause any trouble. They had all fled deep into the mountains and forests, not daring to show their faces. The demon race that had just gained sentience in the wilderness had completely become the training targets for the human race. Chapter 1464. Yi Chen returned to the untainted world with satisfaction. He had gained a lot from this trip to the real world. Not only had he unified the entire earth, but he had also gained a strand of merit power. In the untainted world, many masters of the human tribe had come to join Yi Chen. Yi Chen ordered them to form a new legion. As the peripheral legion of the Samsara dynasty, the legion had a large number of people. The number of people in the legion had reached 30 million. In the untainted world, the territory of the Samsara dynasty had expanded. Now it had occupied 5 states. The army of 30 million players was responsible for exploring the untainted world for the Samsara dynasty. On the one hand, it was to train their combat skills. On the other hand, it was to select the best of the best. Yi Chen was in a good mood. He took a stroll in the sacred city of Samsara with the women. First, they came to a territory specially opened for the Kailan tribe. The hundreds of purple Kailans that Yi Chen had rescued had completely adapted to the new environment. In addition to the Kailans who had come from all over the untainted world, there were almost 1,000 Kailans. Although it was still far from 10% of the Kailan tribe's heyday, there were signs of recovery. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, ladies." After Yi Chen appeared, all the members of the Kailan tribe came out and bowed to Yi Chen respectfully. Now, Yi Chen's position in their hearts was equal to that of the ancestor Kailan. Yi Chen nodded slightly. The Kailan tribe was an auspicious tribe. He must have ordered a few Kailans to be sent to each city to suppress the luck. At this moment, a general rushed in and knelt on one knee. He said to Yi Chen, "His Majesty has an urgent military report." Yi Chen frowned and said, "Speak. Your Majesty, we have killed too many demons in the real world. This has caused great dissatisfaction among the demons in the untainted world. Some demons have already rushed to the ancient celestial court to complain to the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun. However, their status is too low and they are not qualified to meet the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun. However, they have asked for help from the General Bai Yu. Bai Yu has announced that you will destroy the Samsara dynasty. Now, let's say that you've already gathered the forces of the demon race under your command and are ready to attack us at any time." Yi Chen sneered after hearing this. He remembered that in his previous life, Dongwang Tai did have a general under his command. His original form was Tao Wu. As for what his name was, he had forgotten. He was also a demonic immortal. Yi Chen did not expect him to personally take action this time. Although Yi Chen didn't want to clash with Dongwang Tai and Di Jun too early, he wouldn't be polite if they came knocking on his door. "Continue to scout out their movement. Report to me immediately if there's any movement." "Understood." At this moment, in a cave that was filled with demonic qi, people were singing and dancing. The strong demonic qi permeated the entire place. If someone with a weaker cultivation were to appear here, they would probably be suppressed to the point where they could not even lift their head. Sitting on the throne in the middle was a burly man with a curly beard who was more than 20 feet tall. At first glance, he looked like an independent lion. This was the general under Dongwang Tai Swanee. On his left and right sides sat dozens of demon kings of different shapes, each of them holding a huge bronze cup and drinking wildly. One of the demon kings, who reeked of alcohol, said, "Your Excellency, these humans are getting more and more arrogant. I suddenly lost more than 3 million subordinate. They were all killed by the guys from the Samsara dynasty. I also lost millions of my subordinates. These people are deliberately causing trouble. They don't take us, the demon race, seriously at all. They don't understand the situation at all. Don't they know that the untainted land is the world of our demon race? I've heard of the Samsara dynasty. They were extremely arrogant when they first arrived in the untainted land. They have already killed tens of millions of our demon race. Even the Red Moon King of the Red Moon Ridge submitted to them. Some of the demon kings under him were also killed by them." Swanee opened his mouth and spat out a bloody bone. He drank a mouthful of strong liquor and said, "These days, I've been confronting those bastards of the sorcerer tribe. I didn't expect that there would be such ignorant people in the human tribe. Do they think that they are as tough as the sorcerer tribe? They are courting death." After saying that, Swanee stood up abruptly and roared, "Come on, pass my order. Gather the troops immediately. I'll lead a team to destroy the Samsara dynasty and show the power of our demon race." Following Tao Xiu's order, these demon kings roared excitedly. They gathered their most elite troops and prepared to go to the Samsara dynasty for a massacre. The demon race had always been undisciplined. It took them 3 days to gather the troops. About 20 million troops were gathered. These were the elites of the demon kings. Under the leadership of Swanee, they marched toward the Samsara dynasty in a formidable manner. In a dense forest with high mountains and dense forests, there were no birds at all. Here, even the birds were not alarmed. It was completely silent. But if someone fell into the forest, he would find that there were countless soldiers lurking here. Their camouflage had completely blended in with the surrounding environment, only showing a pair of cold eyes staring ahead. Yi Chen stood on the highest tree expressionlessly and asked in a cold voice, "Is the information accurate? Swanee's team is sure to pass by this road, right?" General Zhang Liao cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, according to the intelligence provided by our spies in the demon tribe, this is the fastest route to the Samsara dynasty. Feng Xiu has always been arrogant. I don't think he will use other tricks to go around. He will definitely pass through here." Yi Chen nodded and gave a cold smile. the Samsara dynasty hasn't shown its power for a long time. Everyone thinks that we are soft persimmons. Today, I will use blood to let them know that the blade of the Samsara dynasty is still sharp. Swani didn't take the Samsara dynasty seriously at all, so he didn't hide his marching arrangement. Spies of many forces had already noticed Swani's movement. In the cave residence of the honored Lord of the Origin, a disciple asked, "Master, Swani is the general of the East Emperor Tai. Now that he has gathered 20 million troops to attack the Samsara dynasty, Yi Chen may not be able to defeat him. Should we intervene?" The honored Lord of the Origin raised his long eyebrows slightly and 2 rays of light flashed in his eyes. He said indifferently, "Yi Chen is too arrogant and unruly. What's more, this is a disaster brought on by himself. There's no need to offend the East Emperor Tai for him. He should bear the consequences himself. All we need to do is to wait and see." Chapter 1465. The news that Feng Wu was about to start a war with the Samsara dynasty spread like wildfire. Many forces also knew about it. In the ancient heavenly court, someone also reported it to Dong Huangtai. Dong Huangtai just sneered disdainfully and said, "I've never heard of the Samsara dynasty. The weak human tribe wants to compete with the demon tribe. They're really overestimating themselves. Let Feng Wu teach them a lesson, and let those who want to see the demon tribe's blade." At this time, in the distant Wu tribe, they also heard about it. In a huge cave residence, ancestor Magus Jiang sat on a throne with his legs crossed. Below him stood Xing Tian, Qiyu, Jiufeng and other senior magi. Jiufeng said, "Ancestor Magus, Feng Wu is a general under Dong Huangtai. This time, he made such a big move to deal with a small human tribe. Should we intervene?" Xing Tian also stood out and said loudly, "Yes, I've long disliked those beasts of the demon tribe. Why don't I take some people to kill Feng Wu?" Ancestor Magus Divine Emperor Jiang opened his eyes and said blandly, "Pull one hair and the whole situation will be affected. We can't act rashly. We'll have to fight against the spirit creatures sooner or later, but not now." Jiufeng shook his head and said, "That human tribe guy is really overestimating himself. He even provoked the demon tribe. He's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot." Dijiang's eyes were cold. He didn't care who Yi Chen was. In his opinion, in this untainted world, except for the Wu tribe, no other tribe was qualified to compete with the demon tribe. In the untainted world, other forces were the same. Although they recognized the strength of the Samsara dynasty, compared with the demon tribe, it was not worth mentioning. No one was optimistic about Yi Chen. They all thought that the Samsara dynasty would be destroyed by the demon tribe army led by Feng Wu. Apparently, Tao Xiu thought so as well. He led the army of 20 million demons toward the Samsara dynasty, which blotted out the sky and the sun. Countless demon birds were flying in the sky. They flapped their wings and seemed to block the sun. On the ground, there was an endless number of ground troops. Those huge demonic beasts exuding a ferocious aura were glaring with bloodshot eyes, as if they were about to devour someone at any moment. Tao Wu, on the other hand, was riding comfortably on a flood dragon at the back of the army. The mighty army of the demon clan swept across the land in an overwhelming manner. At this moment, in the forest where the Samsara Empire's guards were lying in ambush, a young general quickly came to Yi Chen and knelt down on one knee. He said quickly, "Your Majesty, according to the report from the scouts, the demon tribe is still 3,000 miles away from us. They will enter our encirclement in an hour at most." Yi Chen nodded to show that he understood. He turned his head and glanced at Dian Wei, Zhao Yun, Zhang Fei, Guan Yu, Zhang Liao, Sun Jian, and the others. Their eyes were all bursting with fighting spirit. This battle was different. In the past, when the Samsara dynasty was expanding their territory, they only killed some stragglers. They were weak and not worth mentioning. However, this time, the demon tribe army led by Feng Wu was full of elite. This was the most dangerous battle that the Samsara dynasty had ever encountered. However, these soldiers of the Samsara dynasty were not the same as before. Everyone's strength had increased rapidly recently. With the endless supply of equipment provided by Yi Chen, they were all completely new. They rubbed their palms together and couldn't wait to go all out against the goblin race. If the Samsara dynasty wanted to gain a firm foothold in the untainted land, they would have to fight a cruel and shocking war. Yi Chen glanced around coldly and ordered the generals, "Lead your troops and get into position. Act according to the plan. Whoever dares to hinder me will be punished according to military law." "Yes, Your Majesty." Following the order, these generals all turned into streaks of light and disappeared. Yi Chen glanced around and found that the surrounding mountains were full of elite soldiers of the Samsara dynasty. They had all occupied very advantageous positions and were ready to ambush the arrogant demon tribe. This time, they must let the demon tribe know the power of the Samsara dynasty. About an hour later, Yi Chen saw an overwhelming number of demon tribe troops sweeping over. The first to arrive were the flying troop. They were dozens of miles ahead of the demon tribe on the ground and were the first to enter the ambush of the Samsara Legion. It was unknown if these demons were overconfident, but they didn't send out any scouts to scout ahead at all. Instead, they just flew over without a care in the world. A pitch-black javelin appeared in Yi Chen's hand. The javelin was about 20 feet long. It was not a magic weapon, but an ordinary one at the spiritual weapon level. It was made by tens of thousands of weapon refiners in the worldlet with some leftover materials. Tens of millions of javelins of this level had been made. Yi Chen stroked the javelin in his hand. Although it wasn't a godly weapon, the most important thing about it was its sharpness and weight. This javelin weighed several hundred kilograms, and the cold triangular spearhead exuded a bloodthirsty aura. Suddenly, Yi Chen raised the triple-edged javelin in his hand. No one saw what he did, but the triple-edged javelin suddenly burst out with a terrible sonic boom. It turned into a black flowing light and disappeared into the void in an instant. A shrill scream was heard in the sky. The great demon golden eagle flying at the front was directly pierced through the neck by the triple-edged javelin. This golden eagle was about the size of a small house. Its thick neck was so thick that even 3 burly men might not be able to hug it. But now, a huge hole as thick as a water bucket had been blasted open. From this side, one could see the other side. Fresh blood was spurting out like a fountain. The golden eagle's eyes were already unfocused. He only felt his body turn cold. He couldn't control his body and quickly fell from the sky like a meteorite. That was not all. The triple-edged javelin did not stop. It continued to shoot forward at a thunderous speed. In the blink of an eye, it had pierced through hundreds of birds. When the triple-edged javelin was exhausted, it still pierced through 3 huge birds. They fell from the sky like sugar-coated haws. Yi Chen's spear could be said to be earth-shattering. It was because the density of these birds was too tight. So Yi Chen's javelin killed hundreds of birds. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.